Council meeting of December 1st, 2025. We'll take a roll call, starting with Councilor
Heather Grant.
Robin Vogt.
I'm Todd Selig.
Joe Friedman.
Sally Needell.
Wayne Burton.
Darrell Ford.
Carden Welsh.
And I should have, is Emily on Zoom? Apparently she may be joining or may be on.
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. So do we vote ahead of time whether she can participate or wait for her to come on?
Oh, somebody's asking to speak up.
Yes, sure. Do we vote ahead of time for her to
Ideally, we know why
participate?
before we vote.
But I think she's going to be, I see.
I don't think,
Okay,
yeah.
so we'll just wait.
Yeah.
I don't believe the speaker system is on in the room, as people are saying.
No.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
So just have it close to your mouth, I'd say.
Is that any better? Is, a speaker?
That's better.
Is that better?
Okay.
I know
You
I'm,
have to kiss
I have a
it
soft
almost.
voice.
Yeah, don't be
Much.
shy. Close.
Don't be that.
So much.
All right, for the approval of the agenda, are there, make a motion to approve the agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda as written.
Second.
Is there any comment, question? Raise of hands, all in favor of approving the agenda? Any opposed? Agenda is approved. We have no special announcements today, so I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes of November 10th, 2025.
I'll second the motion.
Second, is there any corrections or deletions, additions anybody wants to make?
I sent in just 2 minor corrections, so.
Okay. We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote on that. Councilor Grant?
Heather Grant, aye.
Robin Vogt, aye.
Joe Friedman, aye.
Sally Needell, aye.
Wayne Burton, aye.
Darrell Ford, aye.
Carden Welsh, aye.
And I'll also make a motion now to approve the November 17th, 2025 minutes.
I'll second that.
Second? Any corrections?
I had minor correction.
And minor correction.
I'm abstaining, I wasn't there.
Okay. All right. Again, Councilor Grant?
Heather Grant, aye.
Robin Vogt, aye.
Joe Friedman, aye.
Sally Needell, aye.
Darrell Ford, aye.
Carden Welsh, aye.
Great. Thanks. And get right into tax collecting. Big money night tonight, I guess.
Well, report from UNH.
Sorry, you're right. Is Carolyn? Okay,
You want it?
come on up. Please tell us your name.
Good evening. I'm Deba Jamion. Caroline is not able to make it today, unfortunately, so she sent me in her place. We just have a few small communications. The first one is that there's going to be a new external affairs chair next semester, which will be announced this Sunday as Caroline's going abroad next semester. So we're kind of going through an interview process right now, and we'll be selecting the new chair this weekend. And then the second one is that Student Body Vice President Ben and Caroline met with Todd Selig and talked about the possibility of putting e-scooter signage downtown, and they're going to reach out to the Durham Police to collaborate more on that with them. And then the third and final thing is that Caroline's going to be meeting with Jamie Silverstein to discuss the Cat's Cash resolution that we passed and get the Downtown Business Association's thoughts on that.
Great. I'll let you know that the Durham Business Association hasn't yet called for their next meeting, but when they do, either I or Curtis Register, Councilor Register, will be presenting that petition. But it hasn't been presented yet because they haven't had a meeting since you sent it to us.
Okay, perfect. Anything else I should know?
Councilor Welch?
What's the feeling on e-scooters?
It's kind of a complex issue that we're trying to deal with. So it's pretty common for a lot of students to have e-scooters, but it's really difficult to enforce regulations on them as of right now. So we've passed a couple resolutions on kind of encouraging more collaboration with the Durham Town Police as well as the university to kind of work together, just kind of to get through some hurdles of making it a little bit difficult to have them and store them, like we passed another resolution, encouraging the university to have more adequate storage infrastructure for scooters so they're not kind of laying out in the middle of the road or in the grass or in the middle of the sidewalk. And then one of the biggest issues that we have with e-scooters is about people riding them on sidewalks, which they're technically not supposed to be doing. They should be in bike lanes or on paths. So initially we were looking to paint the sidewalks or paint designated paths on like the paths that kind of go through that woodsy area on campus. But it's a really big cost. So we're kind of looking to other solutions, maybe like signage that we could put up or something to make sure that people are not riding on sidewalks and potentially endangering other students or pedestrians, because they pose a really big issue on campus. It's
Interesting.
very complicated.
Is there any sort of agreement on lighting on the scooters? Because it's very
Oh.
difficult to see them at night.
I actually don't believe we've brought that up, but I will
Yeah, if
make
you
sure
could
to.
check on that.
I'll bring that up. That's actually a great point. Yeah.
We don't want to remember.
Recently, I'm not sure you were there, but the 10 Democratic representatives from this area met with the student government a couple of weeks ago, and there was great concern about the impact of underfunding UNH on program availability. Is that an issue now on campus as well, plus the cost of education going here?
Yeah. I think that, actually, initially was the person that brought that up to them. There is a big issue, kind of a lot of students, I think, I guess more anecdotally are facing about funding, kind of programs are being altered in a way. I'm not entirely sure because my major is not really affected by these kinds of budget cuts, but I know a lot of other majors are. And also, it is kind of becoming, or it is an issue, like a prevalent issue of lack of funding to the university and that corresponding with lack of funding for students. It's pretty expensive for a lot of in-state students to go to UNH, so we are seeing a lot of people going out of state. Like my older sister, for example, like we're from New Hampshire, but she goes to UMass Amherst because it would be the same cost for her to go there or to go here. Actually, I think it might be a little bit cheaper for her to go there. So yeah, it is definitely a big concern, but unfortunately when we brought it up with them, I guess it was kind of, they were kind of explaining that they're in the minority in the state house and they can't really do anything, which is a little bit frustrating. But that's kind of the answer we got from them.
Well, I just want you to know that you were heard, and we are passing on what we heard that night to our colleagues in the House and Senate.
That's great to know. Thank you so much.
Any other questions or comments? Oh, we appreciate your report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Happy
Thank you.
holidays.
Thank you. You
Thank
too.
you.
As well.
Okay, the unanimous consent agenda.
You're just trying to get right to the end here.
Sorry,
quickly.
sorry about that. Skipped over that one too.
He's really anxious on that.
Right. Public comments,
Nice
right.
effort.
And please state your name and your address before speaking. And for those of you that may be new, we allow 5 minutes of speaking.
We'll get this in right at some point.
That looks like fun.
That's not mine. How are you? Joshua Meyer with 7 Chesley Drive. I wanted to say a little bit more about the issue I spoke to you about in the past and at the last Conservation Commission meeting. I'm doing this in honor of Eli S. Parker, who was finally admitted to the bar last month, but you'll have to Google as to what took it so long, what legally stopped him from being a member of the bar. Now, Todd and I have basically agree on all the facts, most of the facts about this, but Todd has been focusing on town didn't do anything wrong, and I'm really focusing on was there more that might have been done or might be done in the future in our policies and regulations that would be more right. And I would include the public, maybe after we won that 4-year battle, we should have done more to protect this, maybe collected money to buy the property or something else, or change some of the rules. The town and the state would have gotten more involved if, and I made a mistake in one of my, where it wasn't clear that College Brook is not a protected waterway, though the Oyster River is. So that's, if College Brook were protected, if the overall disturbance, which was listed on the intent to cut as 2 acres, were 2.3 acres, if it would have triggered a DES involvement, if it was an easy way to study the runoff into the marsh and the brook, if best management sediment control practices that the state told me about in terms of hay and all kinds of things were required rather than optional, if the planned use of the site, which must be something there, but we don't know, was before the planning board, it would have triggered restrictions on removing vegetation. Just to quickly go through for those in TV land who didn't hear my other presentations, this was a year-round protection for the neighborhood in all seasons. That's my house in the front. There are Susan Anderson with the woods behind. None of us was notified in any way about what was going to happen to our adjacent property. View of the woods from the Andersons, now what it looks like. The Ursos lived next to an urban forest in all seasons, and that's what it looks like right now. You can see the comparable pile of woods there showing this is all from the same perspective. And this is way beyond cutting wood. And I do seem to be right based on the DS people speaking about the intent to cut wood is not permission to alter the terrain. But the town and the DS each defer to each other according to the rules. Michael Barron says, well, we don't, this is his quote, you know, there are rules we don't, the state has rules, we don't enforce them. The DS has this cutoff of it has to be 100,000 square feet of contiguous terrain, which would be 2.3 acres, or 50,000 square feet if it's in the protected shoreline, which again, College Brook is not. So we had this huge battle involving tens of thousands of dollars all around for everybody and all these boards, and maybe that should have triggered some kind of notice to people. The town assessment officer is not required to notify the town planner or administrator, but also not prohibited from doing so. So maybe Todd and Michael shouldn't have been surprised. Notifying abutters is not required, but not prohibited. Town staff were not required to observe the process to be able to compare what actually happened rather than saying now, well, we don't see this, we don't see that. The site plan regulations, which would prohibit removing vegetation, it's mentioned dozens of times, don't apply. Maybe they should apply even to sites that are being logged rather than in site plan. That's the before picture, now picture. There are 2 regulatory issues I hope Todd would correct me on, but there's an intent to cut wood. It has to be signed by all owners of the property, and it's only signed by Peter Murphy as the sole owner with Tim Murphy's email address. That's not probably a legal notice, or possibly there's supposed to be notice supposed to be posted in 2 places so that people would recognize what's happening. The only one I could find that Todd also sent me was this at the assessment office, which doesn't list anything on the site. It lists cutting on Packers Falls Road and Mill Road. Nothing that would be recognized by anybody concerned about the site or in a abutter. Even the 2 Murphs forest experts talked about the importance of the ground cover on the site, and because of the brook and the marsh, things I've shown you before. We also have what you spoke, the presentation to you about restoring College Brook. These, I think, should have triggered some more concern, and maybe more than Michael Barron speaking to Peter Murphy. So, and
Thank you.
so that's, I hope, So I'm talking about best practices and thinking about what we could have done better, including the public. Maybe we should have bought the property. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak?
Go ahead, please. Thank you, Julie. Hello, everybody. I hope you had a very good Thanksgiving. I am Neil Slepian, 12 Fairchild Drive, and also the chair of the Land Stewardship Subcommittee. So it's no secret that I've been advocating for our Land Stewardship Coordinator to become a full-time position, complete with benefits that all full-time employees of Durham receive and deserve. So I do hope that you had a chance recently to look at the spreadsheet that I sent about the projects that we have on our list to accomplish on our town lands. It's quite substantial. Some of those projects actually have been hanging around since 2021 because there hasn't been time to accomplish them. So tonight, I just want to offer you a little bit different perspective, and I want to offer you a trip into the future. So a simple Google search asking what are the three aspects of Durham that are important or would be good to visit. Number one, I think we can guess, is UNH, the synergy between the town and UNH. Number two comes up is natural environment and outdoor recreation, and that Durham is situated on the Oyster River, affording many opportunities for outdoor recreation. Number three is history and conservation. Durham boasts, directly from the website, a rich history with a legacy of conservation through land preservation. That came up in a Google search. So, two of the top three reasons to visit Durham have to do with our preserved public lands and outdoor recreation. What about that? So, what would it be like if we abandoned our legacy and don't fund a full-time land steward, or unable, in the event that our current land steward leaves, to find somebody to work part-time hours and without any benefits? So what would that mean in a few years when the effect of inadequate land stewardship takes place? So, oh geez, hold on a second. Hi, Dave, I'm right in the middle of, yeah, I did take the kids to Durham today. No, it didn't work out. The trails were overgrown with invasives. Lisa slept on a rotten bog bridge. No kiosk. The map was completely inaccurate. So we ended up going to Newmarket, walked on a rail trail, and went to that Mexican restaurant. It was great. You know, my wife met us. It was really a lot of fun. We're going to take the kids back there. So that's option number one. Option number two could be, hey, Dave, what's up? Yeah, Durham is great. We went to Long Marsh Preserve. Lisa and little Harry were climbing on the rocks, running on the trails. We saw a cool beaver dam and a nice new crossing over this creek. And so I called Joanne. She came to town. We met her at JP's. We had great subs, went around the corner to this little bakery I didn't even know was there. And so we're definitely coming back. There's a lot more nature trails to explore, and I even heard that there are 4 accessible wheelchair trails, so I'm definitely bringing Grandma next time. So the question, so Dave, I'll talk to you later. So the question is, what future would you like to see for Durham, one or the other? Council Register, when I talked to you guys on the 10th of November, just give me like 30 more seconds, please, said that well-maintained trails can bring people to Durham, and when you bring people to Durham, they bring their money to Durham, and when they bring their money to Durham, they spend money in Durham. So funding a full-time land stewardship coordinator can have a lot of what the British would call knock-on effects for town. And I thank you for listening, and I got to call Dave back. Okay, take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Neil.
I'm Julian Smith. I live at 3 Chesley Drive. I'd like to start by thanking my neighbor, Josh Meyerowitz, for his remarks. I find it very curious
that the application by Mr. Murphy was for timber harvest. Now, I think the implication of timber harvest is that timber is going to be put to some practical use, and that new timber will be planted. Excuse me for this kind of assumption, but I grew up in a family with lumber mills and many, many acres of timberland in Louisiana. So, moving on. I know you're all getting tired of hearing me speak in opposition to plans to remove our Mill Pond Dam and drain our Mill Pond. The closest thing Durham has to a town commons. I mean, that's it. This is a big piece of land that everyone can see driving along the major highway on the west side of Great Bay. So, now, the Mill Pond is a beautiful historic and recreational amenity for which the town council and our town boards and commissions have proposed no replacements. Now, I've been told by many that the decision to remove the dam is final, that ship has sailed. That's a wonderful term. That ship has sailed. But that ship may be sailing into dangerous waters. It may hit rocks and run aground. It may sink. So I don't think we should think that ship is gone entirely. Maybe it should come back. I've been told I'm beating a dead horse, but that may be the best way to tenderize a dead horse. Now, you guys have helped kill that horse, which you may have to eat, you and the taxpayers, many of whom voted to kill that horse. And I've been told the people have spoken. Now, I could talk about some of the things on which the people have spoken in the past. I hesitate to do so because you might think I'm accusing you of the same thing. But let me go ahead. I grew up in Louisiana, in the deep South, in a time when the schools were segregated and African Americans were kept from voting. I spent a long time in the 60s because our government had decided to wage a very stupid war in Southeast Asia. I'm not comparing what you're doing to that at all. I'm just saying that sometimes really smart people make mistakes, well-intentioned mistakes. And many of the reasons for getting into Vietnam and Iraq and Afghanistan were given by intelligent people. I hate what I've just done. Okay, the last important item on your agenda is a continued discussion and deliberation on next year's budget and the capital improvement plan for the next 10 years. Now, as I pointed out at your last regular meeting, there is nothing in those two discussion items, the CIP and the budget, about what it will cost to remove hundreds of years of contaminated sediment for which the taxpayers of Durham are not responsible. I don't see anything in the consultant's report about where this stuff is going to go. And I hope soon you will do what an attorney who has communicated with you has suggested, that you hold a public meeting, a public hearing to deal with some of these issues. So, and there is not any item on that budget or CIP to replace what we will lose if and when the dam is removed. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? No? Is there anybody on Zoom? Oh, excuse me.
Hi, good evening. My name is Mike Lehrman. I live at 20 Cedar Point Road. Hope you appreciate the fact that my comments here are meant to be positive, constructive critique. I don't mean to offend anyone if I do, accidentally. I do respect everything you do. I know some of you from various committees and past exercises, and I know that you all try to do your very level best. That being said, after watching the November 17th council meeting, I have to question some of the assumptions that I heard being talked about, that you don't get much feedback from the public regarding the budget, and that you kind of think that people just accept it as good value, no one complains, things must be okay. And I got that sentiment from a couple of people in their comments there. I'm not sure that's a good, safe assumption. I know there's a sizable email list that the Friday update goes out to, but what I don't know, and I don't think you know, is how many people actually read it every week in detail and can put together bits and pieces of things from the snippets they hear in the budget from one week to the next week, etc. I know I miss a week occasionally here and there, and sometimes I go back and try to read it, and sometimes I don't. And I'm by no means critical of what Todd does. I think Todd deserves extra special credit for making the effort to put stuff out to the public, because otherwise there would be a total gap. And I don't think that's in his job description, but it helps. But I don't think it does the job completely. We all suffer because there's not good local media. We all know that, I think. I think you also need to consider the fact that because we live in such a polarized political environment, a lot of people have just, and I know friends, they've just backed off anything that smacks of government. Just don't want to get involved, don't want to discuss it, don't want to get in an argument with anybody, don't want to offend anybody. So you might not really have the sense that you might think you do of what the town residents are thinking and feeling without making some extra effort to actually go out and solicit comments. And I know you say, oh, we offer, come, talk. Well, I don't think that necessarily works that way. I think the council needs to grapple with the immediate issue of a potential 18% increase, as I understand it from Todd. And I think you have to start somewhere. And I also heard in that November 17th conference some people talking about, well, something's only $25,000, it's small change in a $9 million budget. I mean, it's just like, just a pittance, don't worry about it. That's, I think, false narrative. When you're trying to cut a budget, you got to start somewhere. And sometimes you start with the small stuff, and sometimes you find big things, and sometimes you don't. But everything counts. You need to start somewhere. And there's always opportunities to be more efficient. I don't care what the organization is, no matter how efficient you think you are, when the rubber hits the road at some places, you got to make a cut. Now, town government's not always that situation, because you can always pass it on in the way of a tax. But if you're running an operation where you've got fixed revenue and you can't command the revenue to come to you, you have to go out and get it, then sometimes you've got to cut expenses. And I think that you, as the town fathers, need to take that responsibility and say, you know what, 18% is just too much. I think we need to do something to bring it down. The big answers, yes, I know, are growth in the tax base. Well, that hasn't happened, and I pushed that concept to you all back in May of trying to make that a priority for the council this year, which I don't think was really bought by you all. So that's kind of just where my sentiment is, and I have the sense that other people have the same sentiment from talking to neighbors, and I just don't think that you're getting the whole take from what you're hearing or not hearing. I've got a few concrete suggestions. I don't know how we do on time?
1 minute, 7 seconds.
Okay, a couple of real brief things. One, maybe it's worth because I understood from Todd that it's about 40% of your direct salary costs goes towards representing 40% of direct salary costs is benefits and pension expense. So you've got a very large overhead for all of your employee direct hours. Maybe look further at what you can do to augment or replace some services with contracted services that don't carry that legacy pension cost and all the overhead that way. And you can't ask department heads to do that. They just simply can't do that. It might be well to consider benchmarking some of the town expenses against other towns of similar size. Police department, fire department are great examples. I'm going to give you a packet of what I've just give here, and on the last page is a spreadsheet which I did for the school budget. And I looked at the town and the State Department of Education and did an array. And it turns out, because I had the assumption that maybe our schools were sort of gold-plated, their costs are actually pretty much right in the middle for similar-sized schools, and they're only about 3% more than the state average. So I'm not sure that the schools, a lot of people say, oh, it's the schools. Yes, they're a big item in the budget. So I'll give you this, you can take a look at it, and maybe I'll get another chance to talk to you at a later date. Yeah, so now that's just 2 copies. But
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, Mike.
Anybody else like to speak?
Good evening, folks. My name is Tom Daly, and I reside at 190 Piscataqua Road. I'm fairly new to Durham. We moved to the town in July of 2024, so I'm hopefully going to play the new guy card here tonight. And it's really the first time in my existence that I've deeply looked into a town budget before. Worked with Todd and Gail today to help me decipher the budget packet. Many thanks to them for the help. But here's a couple key items that I noted. Revenue derived from town operations and not property taxes, after they've been adjusted for one-time activities in 2025, will shrink by about $240,000 year on year going into 2026. And expenses, on the other hand, they'll shrink by $281,000 year on year going into 26 as well. That seems positive, right? But here's the thing. We need to look at the one-time expenses in 2025 as well. If we back out $2.173 million from 2025 due to the Complete Streets project and Wagon Hill, my calculation indicates that our budgeted expenses will actually go up by $1.891 million. So, I'm a business owner, and a key lesson that I've learned is that if you want to survive in business, your revenue has to be greater than your expenses. And right now, our revenue is not greater than expenses. Now, ultimately, in Durham, the taxpayer will shoulder that expense through real estate taxes. But from looking at property valuation data, the burden is going to be shifted to the residents of Durham as our business tax base has not recently expanded. I've lived in Durham for a very short period of time, and I've heard about things like the Mill Plaza development being restricted, building height limitations downtown, and a shrinking UNH population. These events don't broaden the tax base, it concentrates it with the residents. I'm also learning about a new wetland and shoreline overlay district regulation, which in its current form will limit development in our coastal and other Durham districts. My fairly uneducated, new to town, just digging into this now, gut instinct is that this will continue to concentrate our tax base, or worse, cause significant requests for abatements. So as I said, I'm new here, but I'm seeing a pattern that I'm starting to worry about. Limiting business development, weakening revenue from town operations, and a steady stream of net new expenses. Are we planning, budgeting, and regulating in a financially sustainable way? Or are we creating a future crisis where residents conclude that Durham has simply become too expensive or too restrictive to live in? Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Now we'll check again on Zoom.
No,
All
no
right.
hands up on Zoom.
Okay. Appreciate the comments from the public. We now have our unanimous consent agenda, and Councilor
I'd
Needham
like to pull D.
pulled D, I believe. Anybody else have any? Okay. Therefore, then I'll make a motion on A, B, and C, where I make the motion that the Durham Town Council does hereby authorize the administrator to sign the Town of Durham second half 2025 tax warrant and directs the tax collector to collect payment of property taxes assessed on April 1, 2025 in the amount of $21,802,472. And further, that the town council does hereby approve and signs the warrant for the town election to be held on March 10th, 2025. 2026, excuse me. Thank you. Copies of which will be posted at the polling place, the town hall, and the Durham Public Library. And that the Durham Town Council does hereby reschedule the second meeting in March 2026 from March 16th to March 23rd due to the Islamic holiday Laylat Qatar, falling on March 16th.
I second your motion.
Second. Is there any I guess it's unanimous consent, so we'll just start off with the vote.
Heather Grant, aye.
Robin vote aye.
Joe Friedman, aye.
Signed Adele, aye.
Wayne Burton, aye.
Hardin Welsh, aye.
Thank you.
So I'd say I pulled D because I need to abstain, and I didn't want to abstain from all of the items in order to do that. So I'm fine with moving for D, but I will
Okay.
abstain.
Are you going to abstain because?
What's that?
Are you moving to Riverwoods?
Eventually, yes.
Thank you for abstaining.
We all should abstain.
Well,
Make it crowded.
so I'll move then that the Durham Town Council hereby approves a non-industrial wastewater discharge permit application that exceeds 5,000 gallons per day and sewer extension for Riverwoods Phase 2, tax map 209, lot 33, as recommended by the UNH Durham Water, Wastewater, Stormwater Committee.
Second.
A second? Thank you. And we'll take a vote.
Heather Grant, aye.
Robin vote aye.
Joe Friedman, aye.
Signed Adele, I abstain.
Wayne Burton, aye.
Hardin Welsh, aye.
Thank you. All right. There are no committee appointments tonight. And now we'll have Teresa. Excuse me.
M. Friedrichs has raised her hand. I guess M is on Zoom.
So we need to allow her in.
All
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Yes.
So we'll have a, does somebody want to make a motion to approve a Zoom appearance by Counselor Friedrich?
I move we approve a Zoom appearance by Councilor Friedman.
Is there a second?
We're supposed to know why she's not
Is Counselor Friedrichs there on Zoom? Is Zoom working at all?
I am here, and unfortunately my video is not working, but I am home because I don't have childcare as late into the evening as the town council meeting will go.
Okay.
But I don't know if I can, if it's a problem to not be on video, I can also just be in the audience this evening.
Trying to remember.
There shouldn't be a bar to participation. So
I think you have to just state if anyone's in the room with you, and I think that's the one requirement.
Okay, so no one is in the room with me except Ruby, who hopefully will be asleep soon.
Great. Yeah, I think the goal is to make sure no one's coercing you
Threatening
to
you.
to take a position or vote a certain way, and the public knows that. So, okay. So I think that should be fine.
All right. Shall we vote? Counselor Welsh?
Aye.
Wayne Burton, aye.
Signed Adele, aye.
Joe Friedman, aye.
Robin vote aye.
Heather Grant, aye.
Okay. So now we have Teresa Walker, the chair of the Agricultural Commission, to give us a report on the activities and projects.
Hi, good evening, thank you. And so on behalf of all the hardworking members of the Agricultural Commission, we appreciate the council inviting us every year to give you a quick recap of what we've been up to. This is the 14th year of the Ag Commission, and so as a reminder, several residents came to you back then to talk about establishing an Agricultural Commission because we had just worked on the master plan update in town. And to many of us, what our concern was that agriculture and food production were kind of seen as historical land uses and things like that we used to do, not things that we were still doing. And so I think the people that joined the commission then, many of whom still serve, are still really interested in making sure that our policies as a community and our outreach focus on the fact that food production is still an important activity here in town. So public-facing activities we've done the past year, it was our 12th Farm Day, really successful again. We took a year off during COVID, but still several hundred people touring farms in Lee, on campus, and all around town. And I think I say the same thing to you every year, but what always strikes me there is how many new residents we get every year who've just moved to town and are really excited to see Farm Day as being a family activity that they can learn more about their community. So I have to thank Ray LaRoche. She always guarantees really great weather, so we've been very fortunate in that regard. And Ray has a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge in that way. We conducted, along with some UNH capstone students, a survey of residents, asking them about their interest in growing food and what kind of knowledge or resources they'd like to share. We're still trying to figure out how we're going to use that information, but we have met with several residents who are interested in what we're terming kind of this collaborative agriculture or collaborative food production. And when we say collaborative, we mean perhaps people can share their yards, maybe they share their knowledge or they share their time in ways that we can increase that food production at the neighborhood scale. We've done a lot of hands-on outreach as a commission this year. That takes many forms. Lee has worked really closely with Emery Farm for a long time on a lot of beekeeping and food production and friendly pollinator activities, most of that based at Emery Farm, but also happening on campus and in backyards all over town. Brian has worked hard on pruning workshops every year, teaching people how to prune their fruit and trees and bushes, and kind of adopting those older fruit trees that maybe you were there when you bought the house, you didn't know what to do with. So that idea of just being better stewards of that food production landscape that we have here in town. In my barn, our family, we partnered with Seacoast Eat Local with a really successful kind of sheep management 101 workshop. And so that was a great partnership between Seacoast Eat Local and the Ag Commission. Internally, I think we still have the same conversation every month, and that's really how can we support and mentor residents who are interested in producing their own food in their backyards. So we believe that activity is really an important part of the council's goals of a sustainable community. And so we talk a lot amongst ourselves about how can we share the knowledge we have. I think as a group there's a lot of passion there, and we're trying to make that leap into the community and see if we can have some of that, kind of mirrored back at us. So we welcome suggestions from any committee or from the council, of course, about ways that we could strengthen that local food production. And as you know, in the past, we've done that working with the planning board on zoning ordinances and things like that. I think our focus in the coming year is kind of more of that creating opportunities for people to learn from us and then take it back to their homes and use it in whatever way they seem fit. So that's the scoop from the Ag Commission.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or would like to follow up?
Thank you
for your report.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Appreciate the work that you and the committee do.
Oh, well, a shout out to everyone on there. As you guys know, our community is filled with really smart people with lots of knowledge, and that's really reflected on the Ag Commission. It's amazing to see people who have so much knowledge on things you never think is out there. So we really try to tap into that and welcome other people to join us in that too.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Now we have to receive an annual report on the trustees of the trust fund activities and projects. And Ted Howard is the chair of that committee.
Good evening. I am Ted Howard at 12 Burnham Avenue. I'm also chair of the trustees of the trust funds here in the town of Durham. To begin with, first a shout out to the great staff here at the town hall that helps the trustees perform their functions. Karen Edwards, make sure our meetings are all organized in the proper place. And the business office, Gail Shablonsky and Deb Alstrom keep us on the straight and narrow. And Todd Selig is great counsel for some of the issues that arrive. We do also interact a lot with the land stewardship coordinator, Veronique Luddington. She helps us a lot with the Doe Farm, so I wanted to make sure those people were recognized in this public forum. The trustees, myself, Alberto Manalo, and Tom Beddington, and the alternate trustees, Victor Sosa and James Bubar, meet each month and look over the funds that are entrusted to us. And I think you have copies of the financial results. I sent them to Karen, and maybe not.
No.
You don't?
No.
Okay.
It's okay.
We'll have to adjust how I present this then a little bit, because without numbers in front of you, it makes it sort of hard to figure out what's going on. The financial part's done in a couple of different ways. First, because the town report comes out is timed such that we can't report calendar year results for 2025 because the reports are due and things go to print before we know what those results are. So consequently, we present the closeout of 2024 and then sort of a year on year for 2025. So that's how I'll present that. So for 2024, we made a little less than $160,000 in income, and between income and market appreciation, about $445,000, which represented about an 8.6% return across all of our funds. The funds are divided up between capital reserves, trust funds, and the cemetery fund. And the magnitude of those funds are in the order I just gave them. So approximately right now about $4.5 billion in the capital reserve, about $1.2 million in trust funds, and about $58,000 in the cemetery fund. So it steps down pretty quickly. Anyway, for 2024, although we had an 8.6% return on the beginning portfolio value, we had some significant withdrawals. So the actual balance at the end of 2024 was less than it was at the end of 2023. We took out about, I think I've got the numbers here, about $750,000. No, $620,000 benefit stabilization trust fund, special education trust fund, and a wastewater capital reserve fund, and that totaled $620,000 in change. So with taking a big chunk out of the 2023 ending value, we weren't able to overcome that with the growth and market appreciation in 2024. But nonetheless, on the balance, if we just look at the income earned and the market appreciation, about 8.6%. As of September 30th, compared to last year at September 30th, so this is a year-on-year number, we've gained a little bit. It works out to a 6.93% if you don't worry about net contributions or withdrawals, and we're currently managing about $5.9 million on behalf of the town. And we had a pretty decent, we had an okay October, we had an awful November. Don't know what's going to happen in December, so I'm not sure whether we're going to be ahead or behind. I think we'll be a little bit behind 2024 as a result. So we'll find out in detail a little bit later. And more detail will be provided in the financial section of the town's annual report. That's something that Deb Ahlstrom makes sure that all the I's and T's are dotted in that section. In terms of our activities, we continue to be part of the Land Stewardship Subcommittee. There's Neil in the back. And work specifically on the management of the Doe Farm and the associated trust with that. And the highlight this year was the completion of a forest management plan prepared by Moreno Forestry Associates, and we'll try to get that up on a web page real soon. Sort of need to figure out where is the best place to put that. Not many people go looking for forest management plans on the website of the trustees, but they might look for it someplace where it's associated with people who have interest in lands of the town. So we'll figure this out. A major section of that plan addressed climate change, the impacts, and how we intend to mitigate that. That section was sponsored by the Stratford Regional Planning Commission, and another piece of the project was sponsored by the Lamprey River Advisory Committee. Both of those grants, and I'm going off script here, both of those grants were secured by our land stewardship coordinator, not Veronique, but Sarah Callahan before she stepped down. But it does give, I think, some idea of the value added that that position can bring by not necessarily costing us money. They can actually go out and help us generate funds to pay for things that need to get done. Anyway, a part of that plan that we are adopting will be the development of a formal invasive species monitoring program out at the Doe Farm. We've had good success suppressing some of the really nasty stuff out there, and we need to keep on top of that. So a monitoring program in collaboration with UNH is planned. We have been historically certified by the American Tree Farm as practicing sustainable forestry, and will be seeking recertification in the coming year. Also historically, we used to meet on the fourth Friday of every month, the crack of dawn, well, 8:30 anyway. And with Craig Stevens going to part-time and retirement status, not available on Fridays, so in order to maintain easy public access to our meetings, as well as having a video recording of our activities so people can understand more about what the trustees are doing, we have shifted our meetings to the fourth Tuesday. And so you're welcome to come and participate as public members. We continue to figure out how to do better work with our documents, and I think we'll probably think more heavily about going heavy to digital for financial statements and other kinds of record keeping. We're accumulating way too much paper that doesn't really serve any purpose. We do have an investment policy. The latest version, the foundation of it was put together in 2022, and every year we have to review and approve that policy and transmit it to the Attorney General of the state. And the policy is available on the trustees' website. We've done some minor edits this year, and probably will do some more in the coming year and try to get that approved thing to the Attorney General in January or February. Anybody who wants to see what we're invested in, you're able to look and ask for our monthly banking statements. We also have some excruciatingly detailed spreadsheets that nobody wants to look at. We don't even want to look at them, but we're mandated to do so. Plus, we have quarterly reports from our investment advisor that are available. Also, the investment advisor comes in person every quarter, and that information is recorded. And if you'd like some investment tips, you can probably go ahead and listen in on that, and the public can as well. This council approved James Bubar as a second alternate, and both of our alternates, James and Victor Sosa, attend regularly and participate in discussions, although they do not vote unless they're formally seated to replace a absent trustee. The trustees and 3 town council members, most of whom are here tonight, are part of the cemetery committee, and that's under the leadership of Tom Beddington, and we oversee the sales of the burials plots and work with the DPW to keep that cemetery maintained. For the coming year, we intend to continue our task of custodying the funds entrusted to us to get the best possible return in a safe manner, and continue to work with town departments, continue to work on all the items I've just gone over because it never seems to end. And one thing to add to our list here is we were asked a couple of questions about the Memorial Park and the plaques in the Memorial Park. And there is a process in place by which the trustees recommend to you the names of veterans to be honored on those memorial plaques. Some questions have come up about that process, and we'll be in touch with the town council to ask you all about your objectives and goals and what you expect at the Memorial Park on those plaques. So that's the conclusion of my report, and I'm sorry you didn't have a printed copy.
May I ask, you mentioned in terms of $4.5 million in capital reserves that you oversee, 1.2 million, what was in that, what was that category?
1.2 million are in the trust funds.
Trust funds, and the 58,000?
48,000.
Oh, the
Well,
cemetery.
currently it's about 57,000.
I see.
That's in the cemetery funds.
Thank you. And I'd also like to say that the 8.6% return seems like a very good return, given the safety of the
For
investments.
last year, that was, I think, pretty good. I think we're going to be a bit lower this year, partly because interest rates have come down, and so yield on bonds, on the fixed income instruments have gone down. And I think that's one of the drivers.
Yes.
And who knows what sort of volatility we'll have had during this final quarter. We remain concerned about inflationary pressures. Monetary policy is one thing, tariffs are another, geopolitical storms here and there, extensive capital expenditures, all of which make projecting into the future a challenging exercise.
Yes.
Yes.
Councilor Ford?
Yes.
I did. Can you tell me what the 620,000 that was taken out of the trust funds was for again?
Sure.
I got the water fund, but the other two I didn't quite understand.
I'm sorry. The Benefit Stabilization Trust Fund, I suspect that that's related to the schools.
Well, that might be if somebody retires, that might cover their costs, some of the retirement end of service costs.
Perhaps.
It might be that, I'm not sure.
Yeah. I didn't have access to this is one of the things that and PDFs of all, it's a lot of paper. And so I didn't get the exact purpose for this, but there is, every time the trustees approve an expenditure, there's backup that's put together by the business office that shows whichever body, whether it's the school board or the town or whoever, has made a decision and why it's been made and where the funds are coming from, so on and so forth. And that's all passed to us, and we read all of that before we approve any expenditure of funds from those accounts.
Okay. So what was the other one?
The other one
There were
was
three of them.
the Special Education Trust Fund. And
Thank you.
And both of those amounts were $250,000, and the wastewater sewer capital reserve fund expenditure was $120,650.76.
And Friedrichs has her hand up.
Councilor Friedrichs?
Thank you. I was just wondering if the benefits stabilization fund, if you could clarify that that has nothing to do with the state pension stabilization?
Right, that would be local only. It would not have to do with the state pension, with the New Hampshire retirement system.
Thank you.
Yeah, they would come out of town trust funds, which means that town money went into that trust fund.
Any other questions or comments? I appreciate your report. Thank you.
For the opportunity.
delivering it.
Thank you.
And we will be in touch on the War Memorial plaques.
Great.
And now we have, not sure who's here, but it's scheduled to be a presentation by the UNH students Elizabeth Del Giudice, Jordan Stanley, Reese Levesque, and Josephine Genevizian on the results of the composting challenge.
Del Giudice.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, excuse me.
And perhaps you could introduce yourselves.
Oh, yeah.
So we are presenting on the Town of Durham Compost Challenge that we helped.
Speaking to the mic.
Sorry, that we helped to facilitate the past 5 weeks. My name is Jordan Stanley, and I am a social work and sustainability dual major.
I'm Elizabeth Del Giudice. I'm an environmental engineering and sustainability dual major. My name is Josephine Genovese, and I'm a Child Development and Sustainability dual major.
I'm Reese Levesque, and I'm a Sustainable Agriculture major. We have worked on this project with our amazing mentors, Julie Kelly and Nell Neal, of the Durham Integrated Waste Management Advisory Committee, as well as the town and all of the town councilors and town administrator. Compost Challenge was a 5-week challenge to introduce composting to residents. We had participants, which were some town council members, and then also just interested residents. IMAC has been running this challenge since 2020, so we kind of just took that over for the fall, and we're using it as a case study, activeness and willingness to compost, and what motivates residents to compost. So compost starts out as food scraps or organic waste and travels through a kind of cycle. So as it breaks down and is mixed with brown materials such as like twigs or leaves and also soil from anywhere else, it can be broken down into fertilizer, which in turn helps grow more food and continues a cycle. So it is sustainable in that it can continue to be used. So it is used over and over in a reusable cycle. It's reducing greenhouse gas emissions by lowering the amount of food waste that is sent to our landfills, which, as it breaks down, releases methane gas, and that is a greenhouse gas by creating climate change and warming. It is also a reduced cost for towns and taxpayers because if there's less food waste being sent to landfills, there's less waste in general being sent to landfills. And the city of Lebanon, New Hampshire even reported a 30% cost savings by composting over landfilling their waste. It also reduces pressure on communities that are unequally affected by waste and landfill placement, which are usually low income and communities that are mostly minority. And it also makes people more conscious of their food waste amount. So as you are collecting it elsewhere, you are noticing how much food you're wasting.
So the Sustainable Development Goals made by sustainability, we chose 3 of them. So number 11 was sustainable cities and communities, focusing on the town and the responsible consumption and production. And then number 13, climate action. So for food waste in New Hampshire's goal is to reduce the weight of solid waste disposed by 25% by 2030 and by 45% by 2050. And so far, landfill waste is composed of 24% food waste, and 43% of that is generated just by households. And half of that waste disposed in New Hampshire landfills is actually from out of state, and so our landfills right now are actually starting to reach capacity.
The New Hampshire DES has a waste management hierarchy, and so this shows the different preferred levels that we hope to reach through dealing with our waste, and landfilling being the least preferred and source reduction, so reducing the amount of waste we're producing in the first place is the most preferred. And as you can see, composting is right there in the middle, so composting as a town would align with the New Hampshire waste management hierarchy. So to go into the compost challenge further, we had 21 households participate. We had 6 town council members, including the town administrator. We asked participants to weigh their organic and solid waste each week on Saturdays. And we gave our participants a starter kit, which included a bin, bags, and educational materials that you can see on the screen, just to kind of eliminate the barrier of getting people into composting. And then we asked that households don't alter any of their consumption patterns or cooking habits. We just wanted them to take their food waste and instead of putting it in their landfill, trash bin, that they put it in the compost bin and weigh it. So with participants had 3 options. They could either backyard compost, drop their compost off at the Durham transfer station, and then we had some households that elected to do a curbside pickup through Mr. Fox, and that was a household fee that they pay themselves.
So there were 3 main research questions that we focused on throughout this project. So one of them was, how much waste can composting divert from landfills? Which is from a lot of our data collection. And then what are the impacts of composting on communities, and what are some barriers they might face? And then what can we learn from other towns offering municipal pickup compost with similar demographics to Durham?
So to complete this challenge, we had 3 different surveys we sent out. One was a background survey gaining our participants' experience with composting before the challenge, their initial thoughts. Then we asked them each week to report their weights back to us, and then we also asked how they were feeling about the challenge, what was difficult, what went well each week. And then with our post-survey, we asked some questions about if they plan to continue composting after, if they would recommend it to others. We completed 2 participant interviews to gain some more information once the challenge had concluded, and then we did a literature review to look at the impacts of food waste, and then looking at other municipalities and what they're doing kind of in the composting field. So throughout the 5 weeks of the challenge, we collected.
Need to get closer to
Yeah, pull the mic down. Pull it right down.
See?
There you
There you go.
So throughout the 5 weeks of the challenge, we collected the weights from the participants, which can be seen on the graph. The blue bars are the weights, the total weights for each week for the trash, and the orange are the compost weight. So at the end of the 5 weeks, we found that the 21 households produced 975 pounds of solid waste and 7 pounds of organic waste. We then used this to estimate that if they continued to compost for a year, they would produce about pounds of organic waste. And then we used this to estimate that if everybody in Durham composted, they would produce about 1.94 million pounds of compost. And this would equal about 42.7 tons of methane not being produced in landfills, and it would save Durham about $86,000 annually. And then in our surveys each week, we found that about 95% of the participants plan to continue composting, and they found composting to be second nature once you get into the habit of it. We also found that 90% of participants would recommend composting. Another participant said that they are happy to encourage others to strengthen their connection with their food and learn about effective composting. And then we also found that 49% of responses throughout the 5 weeks rated their composting experience a 10 out of 10, and 16% rated the difficulty above a 5 on a 1 to 10 scale, with another participant noting that compost drop-off on only Tuesdays and Saturdays at the transfer station continues to be challenging for them. Overall, through the forms that we've gotten and also the interviews, we have been able to collect a lot of participant experience. And so overall, what was difficult was noted by many participants that getting to the transfer station when it's open is most difficult for them. We open Saturdays and Tuesdays. Then a lot of our participants said that what went well was really learning about composting and deciding how they might change their household habits. And overall, a lot of people said that they posting more than they trashed, and that their trash was lighter and less smelly than if they had been putting their food waste into it.
So one of the research was Keene, New Hampshire, and they have a compost pickup service. They use Black Earth compost, but they also have their own compost service called the Elm City Compost Initiative. So the population of Keene is about 23,000, and each month their pickup cost is about $20 per month for biweekly and $25 per month for weekly through Black Earth compost. And with the Elm City Compost Initiative, they've so far diverted over 400,000 pounds of waste from the landfill just through this program. And each participant per season diverts an estimated of 1,286 pounds. And then some towns that we didn't use but have some highlights about are Manchester by the Sea, and they were awarded $65,000 from the state of Massachusetts in grants due to the successfulness of their compost. And then Ipswich Public Works pays $20 of residential compost pickup, which lowers the price of the pickup to only about $8 per month for weekly pickup and about $5 per month for bi-weekly pickup for each household. And then Elm City Compost out of Keene, New Hampshire is the first residential service in the area.
So after completing this challenge, we would recommend that Durham would add additional drop-off locations in the community or expand the transfer station hours. This would just make composting more accessible in the community. We'd also recommend educating residents on reducing their food waste and composting. This would just allow residents to cut the waste down right at the source and learn how to correctly compost. We would also recommend that IMAC continues to run this challenge annually. Through this challenge, residents who haven't composted before are able to get the supplies and the support needed to start. And then finally, we would recommend a pilot pickup program with a local commercial compost service. This would just allow Durham to gauge the demand for composting in the community and the cost of the service.
So to conclude, organic waste landfills is increasing methane emissions, which is then increasing climate change, which is why the EPA, among a lot of other organizations, say that we do need to start with eliminating our food waste, but if it's not always feasible, and composting is a good and/or addition to that. And then we recognize that small changes in household habits can be difficult. They can also have really big, and we've seen an overwhelming support of composting and of the challenge over the past, over the semester. So we just want to say thank you to Julie and Nell for you guys for your time and for all of our participants for participating.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
And any questions if we have time. Yeah.
Do you have any idea why methane occurs if you throw food waste in a landfill and doesn't occur if you put it in your backyard?
I would say it still occurs, but in the landfill it's a lot more concentrated because it's along with all of the other waste and breaking down without airflow. And so when you do composting in your backyard, you're turning it, and so it's releasing in smaller amounts and also breaking down differently than just rotting.
Right. I think another piece to that is that the compost is being repurposed into like placing it in soil to fertilize gardens, and instead of just going to the landfill and having it just its life end there, composting gives that food like another life.
I'm just wondering if methane occurs, whether it's in the landfill or in your backyard, it's still a greenhouse gas. And if it's the same amount, what are you really accomplishing?
If I might?
Yeah.
In a landfill, it decomposes anaerobically, which creates the methane. In your backyard, you have to aerate it, and it doesn't decompose anaerobically, it decomposes aerobically, so it does not create methane.
Oh, excellent. Thanks.
Thank you.
Is the report going to be available to look at a little closer, either on the town's website? I don't know if that can be done, or in some other form or fashion?
Sure. You could certainly include it.
Yeah, we can.
Do you want to include your PowerPoint presentation, do you think?
Sure.
Yeah, we could send that.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. At Keene, $85,000 in savings on top of the good climate work that it's doing. And this year of budget, that would be something. Our town's about 16,000. I don't know what the University of New Hampshire is doing about composting. But
They have their own.
They have their own.
Okay. Any other comments or
Human fun.
questions?
Yeah.
We appreciate your report and the challenge. Sounds like it went well.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming and delivering that report.
Okay. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
We have one last presentation item tonight.
So cute.
by UNH student Sadie Dyer on the progress of creating a sustainability newsletter. Welcome, Sadie.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. How are you tonight?
Good.
Good. All right. So, hello. My name is Sadie Dyer. I'm a UNH student. I'm a senior. I'm studying finance and sustainability, and I have a minor in hospitality tourism management. And I am currently interning for the town of Durham under the IMAC and Julie and Nell to create this new sustainability newsletter. So this newsletter is being put together to raise awareness in the community about sustainable initiatives that each committee and commission is working on, and is hopefully going to get the younger families and townspeople involved, as well as the other community members who are already involved in the town. So the point of this is to engage Durham residents in a quarterly newsletter that briefly highlights the sustainable actions that are taking place in the town. We hope to start with what each committee and commission are doing, then expand the newsletter to UNH, local schools, and businesses. Each newsletter will be posted on the town website under Sustainable Durham. And to reach people, we'll print flyers with a QR code that will bring residents to a sign-up page via the town website, where they can sign up to receive an email with the newest newsletter. Also, we hope to post a blurb about the newsletter on the town Facebook and the Instagram to get people interested and aware that something new is going on. And we also discussed adding the newsletter as an announcement in the Friday updates, just to get people more aware in however way we can. And we're also open to suggestions on how to raise awareness. So we've been reaching out to most committees and commissions for a 100 to 200 word summary of what their goals are in the sustainability realm. And once we have everyone's submissions, then we can start working on that first edition. So far, we've had interest from the following committees and commissions: Parks and Rec, Land Stewardship, Agricultural, Conservation, IMAC, and the Community Gardens at Wagon Hill. And our hope is to have the first newsletter edition ready for publishing in late January, early February, and then have a new next edition out in May, so keeping with the quarterly theme. And I've also decided to turn this project into a capstone for sustainability, so I will be helping to organize and get this up and running until I graduate in May. So that's all I have. Thank you so much, and I'll open it up to questions. Yes?
Is your main objective raising awareness or driving change?
That's a great question. I think as of right now, our hope is to just raise awareness in the community and really focus on the young families that may not have time to check the town website. And that's why we really want to try and make it as accessible for them as possible, so that way when they sign up to receive the email newsletter, that really just saves time. It's a brief, hey, look what's going on in the town, and here's what I can maybe do to become a part of that. So I think as of right now, just raising awareness, and again, with the hope to start out with what the town's doing and the committees and commissions, but then also expanding it to include UNH, local schools, businesses, and sort of get the ball rolling from there.
I would offer that the swap shop could also be part of that,
Yeah.
if you want.
Absolutely.
And put out a quarterly report on what's going on.
Sure, yeah,
Okay,
that sounds great. Anything else?
Any other comments or questions? Well, thank you for your report tonight.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thanks.
Thanks, Sadie. All right. Well, we have now come to that part of the agenda on the continued discussion and deliberation of the administrator's proposed fiscal year 2026 operating, capital, and special fund budgets, and the 2026 to 2035 capital improvement plan.
Can we take a 2-minute break?
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll take a 2-minute break.
Probably a long way.
For this budget, Councilor Nadell will make some initial, opening remarks, and each councilor will have an opportunity to say something and talk individually about their budget. Ideally, we go through each of those comments, and we'll see where we are at the end of the evening.
Yes.
We're going to go one at a time around the table after Councilor Nadell makes some remarks.
So we need to have the motion made in order to amend it. So I have to make a motion to get the started, so it obviously makes sense. So I move that the Durham Town Council approve the FY 2026 operating capital and special funding budgets and the 2026 to 2035 capital improvement plan received from the administrator and business manager as presented on October 31st, 2025. Is there a second?
I will second that motion. And now we will begin discussion. We'll start with Councilor Ford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, there are a lot of ideas floating around, and I will leave those for those people who have mentioned them first. But would you like a motion to amend, or would you like to just talk about these things?
I think both, if you want to bring them up, but ultimately, before it leaves, you would make specific amendment. But we can talk about them before you make those motions.
All right. The first item I would like to put forward is putting off the Madbury Road, I believe it's Part 6, which is the multi-use path, putting that off from the CIP until 2027 for a couple of reasons. One is we're not going to get to doing it before then. And the second is funding is, I believe, coming for that, and so we can put it off, that funding. It may not even be constructed until 2028, when the roundabout out on Route 4 is probably going to be done. So that would be my first suggestion.
Perhaps you could make an amendment. I mean, perhaps you could suggest an amendment to that effect.
I would like to amend the CIP to put off Madbury Road Part 6 until the 2027 CIP.
Is it Part 6 or Part 5?
I think it's Part.
I think it's a 5, isn't it? Only go to 3?
I believe it is 5.
Really?
I don't think there is a Part 6.
Well, I know
There's 4A and 4B, and then a 5.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I was thinking the 4, 5, and 6, but it's 4A and 4B, Part 5.
Okay.
Thank you. I amend it to be Part 5.
Okay. Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion?
Do you remember what that, I'm just looking to catch up to where that cost will be.
Yeah, I think it's 1.687 million.
Okay.
Roughly. I might be off by 1,000.
I just wanted to make sure, I talked to Gail today to make sure that that will not affect the completion of the complete streets, where the next part of Madbury Road gets resurfaced. I was confused. I thought withholding this money would cause that piece not to be built, and it won't affect that. And so I would support the amendment that he's making.
Mr. Boskin, would you mind coming up, just in case
That's not our...
want to respond, or there's any other direct
I
questions?
think it's
Santa Claus.
$1,820,000.
Mr. Rain is here.
And Rich Rain is here too.
$1,820,000.
Sorry.
Well, may as well start off with a bang, right? $1.8 million. That's very nice.
So, I don't know. Rich, did you hear that, the conversation?
I did, and I think the timing, as Councilor Ford indicates is about right. You know, we're at the point right now where tomorrow, on Wednesday, there'll be a GASSET meeting, at which time they'll be making recommendations on the TAP projects. We hope that this is one that will be included, then it'll move on to the next step, which is legislature and governor. The only thing I would suggest, you know, from a timing standpoint, it might be helpful to allow for the for that budget to be reduced by 80% to keep the 20% match in there, which I think will be really important to demonstrate commitment to the shared use path, the multi-use path, and that will also help as we move forward with a grant agreement on the TAP project.
When is that 20% supposed, which budget is that 20% supposed to be in?
It's hard to say at this point, Councilor Friedman, because we have to put a grant agreement together first. We don't know which year this project will land in the 10-year plan. We think it's going to land we hope it's going to land in the early portion of the plan, which would tie in well with what we're doing on 4A and 4B. But there's, until we have that money and can advocate for moving that toward the front of the 10-year plan, we don't know right away.
So if this was accepted, this amendment was accepted by this council, another council could come forward and approve the 20% match or 20% requirement? A future council, is that correct?
They could do that in fiscal year 27, but as I said, we might be able to, you know, move that up in the 10-year plan, and we could get started. We're actually in design with existing funds on the on both 4A, 4B, and 5. Much of the money that we would get from the TAP grant would be for construction, but there are some design elements that would still be needed to be completed prior to prior to construction, and we hope to do that over, you know, as soon as we know that in June, July, or August of 2026 that we did receive those funds, we would move forward in that process. So the grant would be required, the 20% match would be required at that point.
One possibility would be, right now in the CIP, we have the town bonding the full $1.82 million. And we know that we're in the queue potentially to receive the grant. One potential would be to reduce to change the project in essence, and to say the total approved amount is 1.82, but with 364,000 coming from the town as a bond, and the residual coming from a grant. So if we don't get the grant, we can't go forward with the project. If we do get the grant, we're ready to go. And what that does, I believe, I'm looking to Rich, it demonstrates to the state GASSET reviewers that Durham is serious, that we're ready to go, that they should allocate it to us rather than someone else.
That's right.
It's similar to the dam. Same idea.
Yeah, right. Okay. So in that way, we would adjust this to show the bond amount is $364,000, and the total construction cost is $1.82 million, and we would show the residual coming from state grant funds. And if we didn't get the grant, we wouldn't go forward with the project, but it demonstrates that interest. Okay.
I'm good with that.
Is that acceptable?
Yeah.
Okay.
I amend
Like
my
that.
amendment to say that.
I second that.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on that amendment? We'll go ahead and take a vote on that.
Heather Grant, aye.
Robin vote aye.
Joe Friedman, aye.
Sonia Dell, aye.
Wayne Burton, aye.
Darrell Ford, aye.
Harding Welsh, aye.
Is Councilor Friedrichs online?
Yes. Aye.
Thank you. Continue, please, Councilor Ford.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Second item is the resurfacing of the Woodridge courts. I've been out there and looked at them, and they're definitely in need of work, but I think only Court 2 is really dangerous or unusable. The others are usable, and they're being used now. The crack, the long longitudinal crack, it runs under the net. It's not in an area where people are going to trip on it. So I would suggest that we remove that item from the capital improvement budget as well, and reduce it to $5,000 so that it can have some remedial action taken on it to hopefully prevent it from worsening over the next year. And I, at least for myself, would commit to moving on that in 2027 because it really desperately needs it. I think there are options for the people using that. I mean, they can, in the summer, the courts at the high school are not used by the tennis team. There are no school hours. The UNH courts are also available. I know there's a parking issue there, but there are places you can park. That would be my suggestion anyway, and I would make a motion to that effect.
I would second that.
The second is
Question?
Yes.
Before we vote? Would you close Court 2 so that, to take away the safety issue?
Not if it's repaired.
Oh, okay, so you would think that repair would be enough.
The $5,000 is the estimate to repair
Yes.
the crack for a year, basically.
Okay.
Give us some more time.
Yeah.
Is Mr. Rain still online?
I think Rachel's online.
Rachel, maybe.
So let's see. Yes, Rachel Gazowski's online.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
Did you want to provide some input? Or I was asking about Mr. Rain because of, I believe their department would be responsible for doing the work, and does that workflow sound reasonable?
Actually, Rachel
Yeah.
will handle all the work for that. It'll be an outside contractor, and Rachel will handle.
Okay. The same question for you then, please.
Yes, that's correct, that we would contract out to have that work done.
Rachel, did you hear the proposal?
Yes, for the, just for the repair on the crack on Court 2.
And that 5,000 is adequate?
That was the initial quote that we had received for that work to be done just on Court 2, back, I would say, late this summer when we met with the company out there.
Any other
I can reach back out to them this week to see if that quote still stands.
We're going to, for tonight, assume that it stands, if that's all right. Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I mean, just for the benefit of the public, counselors have been very active providing questions about all aspects of this budget, and staff has been trying to provide thoughtful feedback. And this topic was one of the questions, and we provided back and forth information. And the feedback was, yes, the $5,000 we believe would solve the crack issue for a year, probably. The downside is, if it's not addressed in the foreseeable future, those cracks could get worse, and rather than a resurfacing, we might need to do a reclamation, which might cost more in the long term. There is a longer crack that runs across the midline of all the courts, the nets of all the courts. This would not address that, but that second crack is smaller and does not pose a safety issue today. So I think this is a viable cut, and as long as everyone knows the story.
Any other comments about this?
I would just like to ask Rachel, next summer, fall, when we go through this again with the budget, it would be helpful to me if you could get at least 2 estimates for completing this, the work that you had suggested we do this year by Bushy. That would be great.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
And my understanding then is this would be a net $82,000 savings in the 2026 budget, roughly?
Well, let's see, 100,000 minus 5, so
Oh, the
$95,000
87 was.
reduction, but I
In the
believe this was
capital
to be
It was
bonded.
to be bonded.
This was
so
a bond.
The impact of the 26 budget will actually be an addition of 5,000 in the operating budget.
Right.
That 100,000 was to be bonded, so it wasn't going to hit for another year or two, so.
But it really helps because we're going to be slammed in 2028.
In 2 years, yeah.
With bond
Yes.
repayments.
Yeah.
Yes, both principal and interest. Yes, okay. Any other yes?
I do just want to make one note, just to make sure that everyone's clear that while the high school courts are an option for the community to play, they do not have pickleball lines on those courts. And that is the big draw right now out at Woodridge, which is part of the project that we're looking to accomplish out there. So I just want to make that a note.
Thank you.
Will there be no pickleball drawn if we follow this?
No. They can still use the
They can
courts.
still
Yeah,
use it.
they can still use.
They can still use the high school courts, however, there is not pickleball.
On the Woodridge, with the Woodridge courts?
No, I meant they could still use the Woodridge courts.
Correct, the Woodridge courts would have pickleball courts and do have temporary lines out there now on them.
Yeah, I don't know, this proposal in its original form was intended to provide some shade as well for
Yep.
people who play, but again, this is a fair, it's a reasonable change. So.
Shall we go ahead and vote on this then? Counselor Welsh?
Counselor Welsh, aye.
Darrell Ford, aye.
Wayne Burton, aye.
Sandy Dell, aye.
Joe Friedman, aye.
Robin vote aye.
Heather Grant, aye.
Counselor Friedrichs?
I'm Friedrichs, aye.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Ford?
I will pass the torch.
All right. Counselor
Rachel.
Welsh?
Okay, I have many. So let me just remind everyone that the budget as presented represents a 40.3% increase in town taxes over 3 years. So we really just imagine what your taxes are. It's a pretty significant budget item for a lot of people, going up by 40% in 3 years. So I think we have to be as aggressive as we can on this. So there's been 10 or 11 different proposals that have already been approved.
Well, we're tracking them. We're tracking them, and the council will need to modify the budget to reflect them.
Perhaps perhaps you could make amendment for all those that you think are approved in one amendment.
Or we could, on Friday, I had sent out sort of the list that we were tracking, and that was prior to another list that Cardin sent later after we'd already done that. So that's why it's not all integrated. And we weren't sure if we would include all those things or not. So would it be helpful for me to read off the changes that we're
Well, would it be
suggesting
helpful
already?
for me
Or for you?
to read them?
Or you could,
Because
sure.
I'm not sure what your list is.
Okay.
How different your list is from mine. But if you just say it
Just to be,
as I go
to
through.
be clear, that's because we have the motion is based on the October 31 printed document, so we do need to actually list them, I would
Correct.
assume. Yeah, okay.
And that, I wonder whether that would be, in my mind, be helpful to have that list from Todd before anything.
It
Cardin
includes some of
adds.
the things on your list that were earlier items you'd suggested. I had emailed it to the council.
It was on Wednesday before the
Yeah,
holiday.
Wednesday, November 26th at 12:37 PM. And it was the same, we included your memo with that other list. So I could just read those things in the amounts.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it included $124,715 in reductions, which there were a few additions as part of that, but the net was a $124,715. So the Integrated Waste Management Advisory Committee budget was reduced by $5,000. That was the compost project that they wanted to do. The education, training, and seminars budget at the fire department was reduced by $2,000. The telephone fax line at the fire department was reduced by...
2,000 for Durham.
2,000
Right.
total.
2,000 total.
I have 4,000 total, 2,000 for Durham. Training and safety overtime? I'm sorry, was that it?
That was, this is fire administration. There's different ones.
Administration,
Fire
education,
administration. Yeah.
1,000 for Durham. Okay.
So telephone, fax of the fire department, this was the project Luke Vincent has been working on to eliminate the old copper lines from different departments. So at the fire department, that's a $12,000 reduction. Part-time wages, fire, part-time wages, fire suppression, $23,240 reduction. Overtime wages, fire suppression, a $25,000 reduction. And Councilor Welch had recommended we consider going further, and we can talk about that. Next, overtime wages, fire training and safety, a reduction by $4,000. Then we had an add-in for a vacation and sick leave buyout for an employee we've learned will likely retire in 2026, but that will be offset. We're planning to, it's an add-in to the budget, but we're planning to charge it to the benefit stabilization fund. I think is that the name, Gail?
Yeah.
So it won't hit the tax rate, it goes into an account we've set up already.
And how much is that?
$36,300. Then Medicare, other general government, $800, and retirement, other general government, $11,600. So I believe all of those hit that stabilization
Yes,
account.
they do.
Next would be a $1,000 reduction from the planning department in travel and mileage reimbursement, a $5,800 reduction in the police department for part-time wages, a $3,000.
How much was the police?
$5,800. And I believe that was delaying the hiring of the Kalia part-time person until October 1st?
September 1st.
September 1st, thank you.
I have $8,500. No?
No, 5,800.
You might have inverted it, maybe, yeah.
What about
Next.
the new guns at the police department?
So that's still out. That was never included. I had included those in the proposal. Social Security at the police is reduced by $300. Medicare at the police reduced by $300.
$90.
Thank you, $90. Thank you, Gil. Education, training, and seminars at police was reduced by $5,000, and that was an area you wanted to reduce it further, Cardin. Telephone fax at police was reduced by $29,280. Radios at the police was reduced by $4,500. And then cleaning services at Wagon Hill Farm was reduced by $15,000. So cleaning once a week rather than 5 days a week. And I'll just note the $29,280 reduction in telephone fax, that also deals with the fiber lines we're eliminating that are no longer in service at the police department. That was the Luke project he's been working on for a while. And then at the Durham Public Works Department, the original proposal included contracting out curbside collection using Waste Management, but Public Works received a second, more advantageous bid, which would save $41,205. So that all totals $124,715. And then there were some revenue enhancements as well we've been tracking. One of them, or changes, one is at the fire department, because the university pays 50% of the cost of the budget. If we reduce the expenditure, that reduces the revenue we'll receive from the university to cover half of those costs. So there's a change of $33,000 in revenue. The next item is the town clerk suggested we could increase our fees for marriage ceremonies undertaken by our justices of the peace here at the town hall. And we're estimating that would bring in an additional $2,500 in revenue. And then we have a transfer in from the capital reserve fund of $47,000. That is what would offset those retirement costs I outlined a little while ago. And then lastly is a really innovative change that the business office has been working on, where, in short, Durham would contract with the town of Madbury to share our staff accountant.
Financial analyst.
Staff financial analyst, Deb Alstrom. So Deb is a full-time employee with us, but we would share 50/50, and Madbury would reimburse the town for half of the cost, and that would be an additional revenue of $58,000. So that's an anticipated revenue change of $74,500. And all together, hold on. I gotta find it, I'm sorry. Here's the email. Altogether, that would have a combined impact of $199,215. And Gail had done a projected impact on the tax rate. So rather than an 18 point, et cetera, change, it drops the impact down now to a 17.19% change. Still not great, but an improvement.
So is it easiest now to move that we incorporate those changes into the budget, and then we can go ahead and keep amending, but that way
keep
they're
adding or
in
amending.
there?
Yep. So that way those are already set.
Right.
Is that a motion you'd like to make?
I will I move that the town council approve the amending of the town
October
budget,
31.
October 31 budget, to reflect the changes that have been made by the town administrator and the business manager.
As of 12/1/25.
Right.
You could just pick the number too and say.
And
Yeah, so
for a totaling 199,215?
Yes.
yes, and that was comprised of $124,715 in reductions, and
70.
on the revenue side, $74,500 in total revenue additions.
Is there a second to that motion?
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion on that motion?
Just the, what are the, are our safety services still intact and nowhere impaired?
It's, yes, I would say yes. It's not what they all asked for, but I don't see these changes causing any significant damage or problems. They won't be able to do everything they planned, but we had a significant change, increase this year, and these are reasonable reductions. So
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Grant?
Grant, aye.
Robin vote aye.
Joe Friedman, aye.
Sidedale, aye.
Wayne Burton, aye.
Darrell Ford, aye.
Cardin Welsh, aye.
Councillor Friedrich?
Aye.
Thank you. Councillor Welsh, you continue?
Sure. So the first thing I'd like to do is reduce the contingency for council from 100,000 to 50,000. The run rate this year has been very low, and even at 50,000, it'd be the highest contingency we've had since 2022.
Second that.
Yeah, so-
This is a reduction of 100,000?
No, from
50,000.
100,000 to
Oh,
50,000.
100,000, okay, 50,000.
From
okay.
100 to 50. So.
yeah, I would.
Go ahead.
So Mike, this is a doable change. We try really hard to budget what we think are realistic numbers, but it's just impossible to predict the many things that might go wrong, and things go wrong every year. And so when they go wrong, we try to absorb those costs within the budget. We try to shift things around. If the problem happens early enough, we'll change operations or not take on some initiative we plan to offset, but sometimes it's a problem. And it's very helpful to have those additional funds in contingency. One of the reasons I felt comfortable reducing, for example, the DCAT coordinator to part-time and the code officer to part-time, particularly code officer, was if all of a sudden there was a flurry of activity and we needed to ramp up later in the year, it gave us some funds to do that with. And the other benefit of having the contingency, and this was a lot of the rationale for its early years, was early on we were trying to beef up our undesignated fund balance to get to a 5% reserve. We didn't even have that. And if we don't expend that, it used to be 125 a year. If we don't expend that 100,000 or 125 a year, it washes into the undesignated fund balance. So there was a benefit there as well. So the change you're suggesting, it's a reasonable change in a bad budget year. I just want everyone to know going into it that it makes it that much harder. And we're already kind of skinny going into the budget from my perspective. We're not, we overtly don't try to have fluff in the budgets. We're trying to be real. And it's helpful to have the knowledge we've got some money in reserve if things don't go as planned.
Yeah, I have a couple points on that, Todd, just from a budgeting practices standpoint. I agree with everything Todd said, and it's nice in good years because then if you don't use it, it just flows into the reserves and it's great and you can use it when you want to. However, this is a really tough year, so as Mr. Lehrman had suggested, if you have a tight budget, people are pretty creative about how to do things. And I think this year, for instance, the great proposal that Gail has come up with is something that pressure on the budget has made her think about. And she's thought about that, and we just saved, $58,000 from doing that. So I think if Todd's contingency is less, there will be more likelihood that people will focus on, okay, how can I get this done some other way without I think this reserve is for calling up the town lawyer and asking for services or something like that.
Well,
yes. Might be.
Well, it's more for, this year, one of the HVAC systems at the library broke, had to be replaced. Library didn't budget for it, Public Works didn't budget for it, nobody budgeted for it. Public Works did not have the money in some other budget because they're over their skis in areas. And so we used the contingency. But I just want to note, we're very diligent in guarding those contingency funds. That's why you don't see them drawn out every year, is because we're earnest about how they're used. So.
Yeah, I didn't mean to imply that you were just throwing money away.
Okay.
But can I just ask, so if in that example that you used, and it was an emergency HVAC replacement, there was no leftover contingency, would it then come from the undesignated fund or undesignated fund balance if it truly was an emergency?
So there is always the opportunity to come back to the council in a worst-case scenario and say, look, we don't have the funds. We'd like to request that the council amend the budget and draw from some known revenue source. Typically, that would be undesignated fund balance to offset this unanticipated cost. But it involves time and bureaucracy and a lot of effort to go through that process. And the council would have to schedule it, hold a public hearing on it, take the vote. So it's doable in that scenario. And this just allows it to be dealt with as a matter of course, much more efficiently. But again, we will do our best. I'm not trying to throw up obstacles to the council. I'm just trying to point out the pros and cons.
No, I appreciate that. And the other thing for the council to remember, one, in a true emergency, Todd could come back to us. I think it's happened once in my tenure over the last 11 years. But the other thing is that the person in charge of every big department can, once we approve this budget, they can move stuff all around. So they can't hire new people, but they can move from one area to another very effectively. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so if let's say we accidentally cut too much out of, I see the chief over there, fire overtime, and he really needs it. He's got other areas that he can pull that money from. DPW has you know, if there's a low snow year, they have money that they can pull from plowing, vice versa. So there's a lot of flexibility that the department heads have. And Todd is the head of the department heads, so he has quite a bit of flexibility as well. So if in our efforts to cut the budget to something more reasonable than, well, now it's down to 17% increase, if we overcut one area, there's a lot of mechanisms that the town has to cover that from other areas. So I don't represent that I know fire overtime better than the chief, but if we cut too much from one area, he has other places he can get it. My second.
Do we need to take a vote on?
Do you want to vote on that?
Oh, yes.
On the contingency, do you want to make a
Yes.
motion about that?
I move that we reduce the contingency for council from 100,000 to 50,000.
It was already seconded.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you. Any other comments on reducing that?
I do have a question about that. I wonder, so for example, the budget additions that are the for assessment appeals or assessment adjustments, why are those budgeted as their own separate item instead of as part of a contingency fund such as the council contingency fund? And I guess I state this because it makes me a little nervous to have a budgeted amount for those assessed adjustments, because if I were a lawyer, I would look at that and say, great, the town's already budgeted. There's no way I'm settling for anything different than that.
Well, as part of the process, we try to evaluate what a potential worst-case scenario might be. We hope that won't be the situation. We don't necessarily believe the data supports that, but we just want to protect the town, and we're trying to be transparent about it. So it's part of the downside of the transparency is it does allow a lawyer to say, oh, how much is the town budgeted in contingency? But we're not necessarily holding out how much we're reserving for each individual parcel. But we've tried to make that calculation, and that's carried in an account called overlay versus contingency, and that's used only for abatements. So, and we typically carry 100 and, I'm looking to get, is it 175?
We have 175 this year.
Because it's a revaluation year, we budgeted we recommended $175,000 because it's likely there'll be some appeals based upon the reval. That's pretty consistent with the past.
Councilor Bergen?
A question, the statewide property tax that appears on our bill, we keep that in town, right?
The state portion of the local education?
The statewide property tax that was put in to make it look like the state is meeting its full education costs?
I believe that goes to the school.
Yeah,
That goes to the school.
I think we collect it and then we send it to the school district. And we're not sending it anywhere else. It's going to the school district.
The Republican solution to the school funding problem is to have that money go to the state treasurer to increase the allocations to the poorer towns. That's no longer going to be available to the school district. And there are other bills that the Republicans have put forth, and that is Republican. I'm on the committee. I know it's a 10-8 vote every time. That could have a fairly major impact on the towns because, and I'm just saying this as a warning sign. The problem is the state fiscal year is catty-cornered with the town's fiscal year, so it would only affect 6 months because we're working in the state on the next biennial budget or this year's budget. The attitude in Concord is to pass on to the towns any liabilities that the state incurs by the educational funding. And I think that's a fact, and it's a warning flag to the towns and the school districts.
So did you vote on this?
No, we're
yet?
about to, but are there any other comments on the contingency? So we'll go ahead and vote now. Councilor Grant.
aye.
Robin vote aye.
Joe Friedman, aye.
Sonia Dell, aye.
Wayne Burton, aye.
Darrell Ford, aye.
Cardin Welsh, aye.
Counselor Friedrichs?
Aye.
All right, Counselor Welsh, do you want to continue?
Yes, and maybe if I could have Chief Emmanuel come up to the podium. What's that?
I've just been a wise guy.
Yeah, hey David, how you doing?
Excellent, excellent, thank you.
Okay, so I just ran this strictly by the numbers. The department added 2 firefighters, and my proposal here is to reduce budgeted overtime for suppression to $400,000, which is consistent with this year's run rate and reflects the addition of 2 new firefighters. Remember, they joined about mid-year last year, and we have a very low run rate for overtime this year, which I attributed to having 2 new firefighters. Now we have those 2 new ones for the whole year, and when you look at the run rate, which is $363,000, and I look back the last 3 years, the run rate was always higher than what it actually came in at. So there's nothing about the fourth quarter that means there's a lot of fires or anything. Although I think he did plant those 2 fire trucks out on the road here, so we couldn't get by on the way to the town. But I see right through you. But if we come in, as we're likely to, at below 400,000 this year, and we have those 2 new firefighters full year, I think we can get down to 400,000. So that's my justification for using 400,000. Now, David, you wrote me something that you claim you wrote, but it says Chief Emmanuel had originally requested a $50,000 reduction in overtime.
He's like
So,
Bob
are you
Dole.
talking about yourself in the third person here?
Yes.
Okay, so
Sometimes the context to respond. This was the raw data coming from me to you.
Okay, so what I'm wondering then, given those numbers, and it looks like you should be able to do 400,000, why can't you? And from what I read here, it's you could do it, but you don't want to do it because you want to move towards 6-person shifts instead of 5-person shifts. Is that a good summary or no?
I was with you up until the final statement.
Okay.
I think if everything were to align, this year we've had a tremendous savings in overtime because of the onboarding of 2 new staff members. You're absolutely correct. It has also subsequently aligned with the 2 long-term injuries that we're supporting right now. So we're realizing the overtime savings for 2 whole positions.
Because they're on the same shifts.
Because they're on the
Point,
same
yeah.
shifts as the 6-person. We have 2 shifts that are staffed as 6 people.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry.
So that's the key, So
Why is it important that they're on the same shifts?
The 2 injured employees are on the 6-person shift, so they can drop to the 5 with no repercussions. If they had been a 5-person shift and somebody went out, then they would have had to get overtime to bring it up to a 5-person.
So we went from 6 to a 5 and it was free,
It was fi-
because
Right.
we can do free.
Right.
Yep, okay.
And my concern is that if next year the injuries are not incurred on the 2 shifts that are staffed that have the flexibility of dropping at our whim, we won't be able to realize the same level of savings.
How many shifts are 6 people
2,
out of?
4. So we're 50% there. That was the reason I had
Now,
made.
the 6-person shifts are new, right?
They started this year in 2025.
Okay, up until 2025, all shifts were
5.
5. So, given that this is a tough year, why don't we just move to 5-person shifts?
You could do that, but I would expect our overtime to be in the $550,000 range. That's our 3-year average right now. So,
Well, we don't get any benefit by having these new guys?
yes, you're receiving significant benefit. In this year,
No, but so why do you get back to the last 3-year average when now you've got these extra guys?
I don't know if you know, these guys can only work the shift they're in. They can't switch to another shift. So they can't fill in for a 5 that drops to a 4. somebody from the 6 can't go to make that back up to a 5.
When we hired these 2 new guys, there was a expectation that overtime would go down.
Yes.
Yes,
So,
but
so why would we be the average of the last 3 years? Because we've always had 5-person shifts, right?
Yes.
Up until last year.
Until this
And-
year.
Until this year. Now we hired 2 new people, and overtime was supposed to go down because the 2 new people were paying them, and they're doing the shifts.
Yeah, and
Right.
we're
It helps.
proposing a $75,000 reduction in overtime. I agree with you 100%. When we put our initial budgets together, we'd only had 1 shift that had been staffed at 6. The second hire was literally during this budget process. So what I've been putting together is an aggregate of 6 months of data for you with having the fire department running with this new model, which I agree with you, it could, if all 4 shifts were staffed, I think that we could realize the savings across the board of dropping from 6 to 5 most of the time, except during high need or, high demands. I think we could realize everything that you're asking for. But because we're only doing it 50% of the time right now, I can't guarantee that the injuries are going to be on the shifts that have the flexibility. That's all.
So what do you come in at now?
We had,
When you say a $75,000 reduction, your $75,000 reduction isn't my $75,000 reduction.
well, if we started at,
I think you started at, well, you would propose.
I started at 500, right? And then you said yes to 25,000, so we're at 475.
yes, and that's where I thought, that's the number, that's splitting the difference between,
Because the 25 budget was 550,000 for overtime, so 550.
I know, but they're running at 363.
Right, but we've dropped down so far to, the proposed budget was 500. We suggested dropping it 25 more, so now it's 475. And, for example, the 24 overtime expended was 592,000. The FY '23 overtime expended was 559. So it
But
just.
that's before we had the 2 new guys. The 2 new guys are supposed to cut down on overtime.
but they can only do that for their own shifts. They cannot do it for the
if
other
it-
2
If
shifts.
it happens to fall in the.
Okay, for half the
shifts.
shifts.
Right.
and Counselor, when we proposed the first round of budget that we requested was a $50,000 decrease. That's what the town administrator brought forward to you. We had already said reduce the overtime by $50,000 to $500,000. So that was, I agree with you on that starting point. I looked at it, we had already realized a $50,000 savings. And then you had asked questions, and when we ran the data and information again, I agree with you. I think we can get another 25 safely and still staff.
So go to 475?
Well, I think that's where we are now, right?
Right.
That's where we're at now.
475 is where we are now.
Yeah, because we already took 25 off in the last round of cuts we did a few minutes ago.
But we could get to 400 if the right people got injured. Is that what you're saying?
I can't say that, no. If the timing lined up correctly with our
We could get
long-term
to
injuries.
400.
If no one got injured.
Yeah, potentially. I can't, I would be remiss to guarantee or tell you that we can do that. I think that what we put forward is $75,000 less than we had asked for last year, or than what had been appropriated to us last year. So I think we're working in the right direction. I need some more time and information and timing to make it, to realize additional savings.
Yeah, and I will just note, to the extent there is unanticipated appropriation at the end of the year at the fire department, that typically will wash into the fire department and capital reserve fund, which is getting depleted. So that wouldn't be a bad thing to replenish that for future equipment either.
Is that where it goes?
Yes. Well,
Up to 2% of the total budget.
Up to 2% of the total budget. And usually it wouldn't be more than that typically.
So your 75,000 is 475,000.
Correct.
Okay.
I felt it would be irresponsible for me to come to this council without a reduction in overtime. So we took $50,000 off on the assumptions that you and I are already making before you went on your initial budget that you received.
Yeah, so we could go to 4, and you may be right. We may have few overtimes or the few injuries, and the injuries we have might continue to be on those 2 shifts, but that might not be the case either. And so we're just kind of playing the averages.
This is the one that has a run rate that of
363.
Is this the one with the 347, 169 overtime, or is this the different overtime? I'm trying to figure out what line we're talking about with fire. Is it
Yeah, the
suppression?
347 is through September, so that's a 9-month run.
9 months run, okay.
463, yeah.
And I don't know when our second person was injured. I would have said it was right around September. So it doesn't reflect the second person being out. Then they're going to be out for the full last quarter. And I don't know when they're coming back.
Can you explain to me why it is that a person that's on the 6-person shift wouldn't be able to be reallocated on a temporary basis?
I could. I guess I would relate it to telling half the council, you guys aren't going to meet on Monday nights now. You're going to meet on Tuesday nights.
Well, I mean, that happens all the time at work. You shift people around because you have to. And, you know, one line's working, it's had 6 people, and the other line's got, you have to shift people around when you can. The question is it a union contract issue, or is it just something you don't feel good about doing?
No, it's...
If you needed to shift a 6-person, maybe to cover a 5 shift, so that if somebody's out on the 5 shift, they could get from 4 to 5 by shifting a 6-person over.
I think those are great questions, and there's a number of different factors that influence the staffing and the scheduling. There is language in the collective bargaining agreements that require I think it's 2 weeks of notice. But our larger challenge is we often don't know that it's going to be a long-term injury until we're a good piece into it. And then depending on the duration or the anticipated return date, we don't always have a good end point of it either. And the place where it's hard on our people is just like you have a calendar and a family calendar and a child care calendar, that the ripples propagate far and deep. And to say that we're going to move you and it conflicts with your vacations, your holidays, your child care, it's detrimental to the staff to destabilize.
It could, but you could actually ask for volunteers and maybe even have a bonus program that would do better than hiring 2 more people onto it and worrying about the overtime.
And that is usually how, when we reallocate shifts, we generally do it on a voluntary basis. And we do this once or twice a year, depending on somebody's retirement or if someone severs employment. We redistribute the talent so we have a broad and relatively equalized training and experience level across the 4 work groups. So we do that now. It's just, I think it's a taller ask to do it on a more frequent basis. Not impossible.
Okay, David, so the additional 25 is already baked in, Todd?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay, while you're up there, I had suggested we reduce total fire training and safety to $165,000. Now, you already gave up $4,000 on that. I'd like to cut another $15,000 if I could. It would still be the highest amount we ever spent for fire training and safety by a wide margin. This year's run rate is $93,000. Prior year maximum was $100,000. And given the overall budget, it's a tough year for us to have a lot of staff development and training. And I know you've heard this before, but this is the worst year we've had.
I understand.
So can we save $15,000 there?
We will work with whatever we need to work with.
Okay.
The only thing I note is that when we overrun suppression overtime, this is the line that we usually take the money out of. The past several years, we have underfunded the training. So I understand your position and I do respect it. You know where we're at. Or I'd be remiss to not state that.
And I thought another concern of yours is that you have less experienced firefighters coming into the fire department who might need the training that others might not. Is that a
It is. We
consideration?
used to hire advanced EMTs or paramedics, and currently we're hiring basic EMTs because the labor market doesn't yield advanced EMTs. So we hire somebody, invest in the person, and then send them out to get the EMT school.
Right.
We send them out to get the technical rescue skills. We send them out to get the advanced fire training because the labor pool just doesn't have it anymore, as well as trying to maintain our technical skills. And it's some of the annual training we do are based on the needs and the responses here in the town of Durham. We're not sending everyone out for master's degrees or bachelor's degrees. These are functional skills that relate to the jobs that we perform.
Okay, so David, I would like to, you have this ability to move stuff from one area to another. So I will propose that we reduce overtime by an additional 15,000, but keep the training budget the same. And then if you want to allocate between the two, you can do it. So essentially I'm saying, please give us $15,000 more and you figure it out.
I understand. Okay. Thank you for the explanation.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a question for Chief Emanuel as well that I was just wondering, there was some discussion.
Counselor Friedrichs, we're going to go one at a time. I don't know if you heard this, but we're going to let Counselor Welsh finish with his, and then you'll have a chance.
Do we want to vote on that?
Oh, but
I don't know if he's made a motion yet.
yeah, but is it related to this motion, Em?
It's related to, I guess, the staffing question of the fire department.
Yeah, go ahead.
I believe that last year there was some discussion of trying to work with Riverwoods to also cut down the number of calls that were requiring fire to accompany. And I was wondering if there were any results with that, or if that was if there were any noticeable downtick in terms of the number of calls that you were receiving.
Councilor Friedrichs, I do not have tight data and information to present.
Do you want me to comment on that?
Please.
When we met with McGregor Memorial, we talked about this topic, and McGregor provided some data for us to look at to show the impact to calls at Riverwoods. And I don't have that in front of me at the moment, but it's significant. Since Riverwoods opened, there's been additional calls there, but it's not only Riverwoods, it's all of the 55 and older complexes around town. They generate quite a few calls for service. And so at Riverwoods in particular, last month I reached out to them and requested a sit-down meeting the first part of the new year to talk about whether there were some strategies Riverwoods might employ that could mitigate that to some extent. Now, is it costing Durham more money beyond fuel to respond to these calls? Not necessarily. Where it is hitting us is on the McGregor EMS costs, because there's a 3-year average from each of the participating communities, Durham, Lee, Madbury, Durham, UNH. And I think they respond periodically to Barrington as well. And Durham's calls, in comparison to the whole, have been on the uptick, and that's in large part because of the calls to the assisted living facilities. So it is, over time, costing us more there. So we'd like to evaluate that. The challenge is that I think we'll hear from Riverwoods that they are paying a pilot that, in essence, other than their nursing home portion, is equivalent to a full tax rate, what they would pay. So I'm not sure. They may push back and say, well, we're paying our taxes. Why would we need to make any changes? Our residents, your residents are calling for service. But that's not what they've said. And I'm hopeful that we'll be able to see whether there's some way for Riverwoods to perhaps take on some of these calls themselves, or be kind of a first line of vetting for some of these calls. So that's the latest.
Did you want to make a motion then?
Yes, I would like to move that we reduce the budgeted overtime for fire suppression to 450,000. Is it 475 right now?
Yes.
Yeah, to $450,000.
I thought you said 15.
That's 25, not 15.
I'm sorry.
You tried, good job.
460,000.
Is there a second? I'll
Second that.
Second that, Counselor Grant. Any further discussion? Take a vote, Counselor Grant.
Heather Grant, aye.
Robin vote nay.
Joe Friedman, aye.
Sorry, this is a hard one. Sally Dell, nay.
Wayne Burton, yes.
Darrell Ford, aye.
Cardin Welsh, aye.
And Friedrichs, aye.
So that's 5 in favor, 2 opposed.
Okay, and then, as long as David's still up here, Chief Emmanuel, no impact on the training, so.
Okay, I appreciate your consideration.
Yep. Okay, now a controversial one. The Land Stewardship Coordinator.
Drop it in south.
6 and 2.
Yeah, sorry, 6, it was 6 to 2, apologies.
Okay, yep.
Yep, thank you.
Land Stewardship Coordinator. My friend Neil Slepian has been very aggressive about trying to pass this. And I'd like to say a couple things. One, the savings is $33,000. It's not $25,000. But let me be very clear. I think the position's valuable, and it would be great to have. But the point is, right now, we have a budget in front of us that asks for a 40% increase over 3 years. That's if we just approve this as is budget. We're up 40% in 3 years, which is a lot for a lot of people in this community. We talk a lot about trying to make the community more affordable and everything. Then we have this budget, which is 40% increase by 2028 after 3 years of increases faster than the inflation rate. And we used to have a goal that I think got dropped somewhere along the way when I wasn't here, that the budget was not supposed to go up more than inflation. So as we got more valuation in town, that helped us afford new things. But if we didn't get more valuation, we couldn't add new things. And that worked where we had all the new student housing and everything come into town. We did a lot of things, but now we don't. But it seems like we have the same kind of budgeting idea that we can add new things every year, and I just don't think we should. We're asking all of the town's departments to cut back. David was just here. David wanted 2 more people this year. We said absolutely not. Other people have asked for a lot of things that we're cutting back, and I think right now, when we're asking everyone else to cut back, and we're asking the people in the town, the citizens, to approve a 17% now budget, or 16.5, whatever it is, we shouldn't be adding new things. All these years, I mean, it was interesting the way Neil portrayed it, but all of these things that we've done, adding and taking care of the town land and the town trails and everything, we've done that since 1917 with a part-time person who's done this work. And this isn't about conservation, it isn't about properties, it isn't about Veronique. It's about what we can afford right now, what we're asking the citizens to afford right now. You're representing the citizens here, and I don't think if you ask your neighbors, is 40% increase over 3 years okay, that you're going to get a lot of people saying yes. So it's a good idea. Veronique's a great employee. This is absolutely not the year to add a full-time employee when we've had very good results over the past 8 years from part-time employees. And we even put in there more hours in case they needed more hours to do something. And in the past, when someone has worked more hours than we allowed to them, they came back and said, hey, I have more hours to get more things done. And Todd said, yes. And we gave them that flexibility. So I'm just really emphatic about not adding new people this year in this situation and burdening the taxpayers with what would be happening would be we're building a bigger infrastructure that we have to carry for presumably forever. Todd calls them fixed costs. We've got this fixed cost base, and invariably over the years they're going to want training and travel and development and all sorts of things that come with a full-time employee that we don't have enough valuation to support yet. So I think for something like this, if we're going to start adding people and positions and that sort of thing, we have to wait till we have more valuation to support it.
Comment?
Yeah.
Several weeks ago, I think I sent this in an email to Todd, was that the Conservation Commission has a pool of money, which they use for, when we get the, potential to purchase land, right? As our contribution to it for the protection of lamprey, whatever. I don't know why this particular position couldn't be funded out of that. And whether they can then, find other ways to gain donations or whatever, but I don't know why we don't have them take that out of the conservation fund.
We opted not to charge the position to the fund, in large part because it would, over time, deplete the fund in its entirety.
Yeah, but over time, how long? I mean, if at some point we could shift it back out, but for like 3 years, we could leave it in.
Yeah, I'm thinking we have $40-something thousand in there after expenses?
47,
It's
wasn't
about 100,000, I think.
It might be 100, I'm not,
Yeah.
but it's, what we've used that fund for is to largely pay for the work, the brick and mortar supplies needed by the coordinator to do the work, rather than the coordinator's fixed costs. And I have to defer to the amount. It's a limited amount. I'm sorry, I don't have the exact amount in my head.
Is this the fund from the change of use tax?
Yeah, the land use change tax. So it's a 10% penalty at the time a parcel's removed from current use goes into the fund, and we're not able to predict when a parcel will come out of when it will come out of current use. So it's very happenstance. And the town has enjoyed being able to use the fund to leverage land conservation efforts as well. Do you know what the amount is, Gil?
I think it's 164,000.
But I think we just paid out some or committed some.
50,000
We've committed some, yeah, so I don't know what the uncommitted is.
Yeah, so we've got a little more than 100.
Yeah.
So that would.
But we also have a general supplies line in their budget as well.
Right, but we charge much, much more to the fund than to that general supply budget line. We're charging $10,000 to $20,000 a year, I bet, on bridges and.
Does that include the
things like
surveying?
that. No, the survey is
that's
separate. But we cut the surveying from the budget for next year in favor of trying to support the stewardship coordinator position.
Do you happen to know if the Keefe property is in current use?
I believe much of it is, yes.
And an overlay district was passed for that particular property, among others. There may be some action on that, and the 10% number, how does that work?
It's 10% of the current value of what's removed from current use, whatever's disqualified. But I
We
wouldn't.
can't count on it.
I wouldn't count on it. We don't know.
Just what,
when that might-
properties in Durham that
For-
might,
Right.
in the very near future.
Right.
Right.
So it'd be changed. And I'll note as well that, the Conservation Commission has custody over that fund, so if the council reduced it in the budget, then, and said to the Conservation Commission, well, we'd like to keep the position, but we'd like it to come from this fund, the Conservation Commission would need to agree to that as well, so that's a further conversation we'd have to have. So
I just think it's a good option in a tough year, and it could be revisited in the following years in terms of where it's allocated. But it's something that they're passionate about, and if they think that that's the right way to go, I think that that should be an option.
I would recommend against it in that it puts us right back where we are now in 2 years, let's say there's $100,000 in the account, in 2 years we wipe it out if there's no further land taken out of land use change, and then it's back here and it's an addition of $50,000 to the budget.
And now the Conservation Commission money has been depleted.
Right.
So,
So,
all right. Two things. My own personal observation, could be right or wrong, but since 2017, we have asked this land stewardship coordinator to do work that wasn't part of that job. Some of those things were picked up by the land stewardship subcommittee itself. And again, my own observation is that that's been now it's in the hands of the coordinator. I'm thinking in particular of the stewardship program. Anyways, and the other thing is, I think we're forgetting that this position also allows for grant writing and the potential of bringing some of that money back to the town. But that's only going to happen if that person can work enough hours to do that grant writing.
Right, and the grant money could go back into their fund.
And if they don't get the grants?
Well, the grant money wouldn't go back into the fund, it would pay for whatever the project was, the grant was received for.
Depends. I guess it depends on how it's tailored, right? On what that grant is.
Unless the grant was to pay for
the coordinator.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and if that's funds, though, that are for a particular project, like helping to build more bridges, then that's money that doesn't have to come out of that fund, which you say we do to pay for those things now. So, I mean, all it's a wash that way.
Yeah, so this is an add to the budget in a terrible budget year. And I just will note, like, Councilor Welch has been the most forceful speaking to reduce the amount, but no one has been a greater champion of conservation than Councilor Welch. And he's trying to think from a very, I think, even-handed taxpayer point of view on this, as I think you all are. The risk is that less gets done than currently. The risk is that the current employee, who's terrific, chooses to move on because they need the benefits associated with it, or they need additional funds, I'm not sure. But if that was to happen, I hope it doesn't, we would seek to find a replacement. I advance this to you because it's squarely consistent with council goals. It's an incredibly successful initiative, and I thought you should make the decision as a council. So there's no right or wrong decision. I think Neil Slepian has outlined very articulately all the reasons why it makes a lot of sense to bring this on, and you've heard the other side of it as well. It's a terrible budget year to do it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I heard a statistic recently that 30% of the Durham land is in conservation, which is twice as high as any town. So this town has already made the policy to have significant land in conservation, and with that comes a responsibility to take care of it. And that's the way I look at this position, that we have to take care of the land that we've got in conservation. And this year-to-year patchwork system is bound to not keep that land up the way we might, yes, with a full-time person. And so that's why I think we should vote for the proposal.
What specifically, Wayne, do you find we're not keeping up in the town land that we have?
I don't feel obligated to answer that question. I'm just being logical.
I would say as a trail steward, I haven't heard a thing. I think having time to manage the trail stewards is probably is pretty far down on the list because there are other things that are more important. I mean, I just thinking that's one thing that I've observed, and I think that's because it's more. We've also acquired more land since 2017. There's a lot of work that's just anyways, feel like I need to support it because there's so much in town that needs to be done.
Yeah, I would just say I've been a trail steward and it's pretty easy. So I'm not so sure what exactly support you need from someone full-time. I also think the state of our property is pretty good. If you want to call invasives as a big problem, we've got a big problem pretty much everywhere in the state, and no one really has a solution to that, and we won't have a solution by hiring someone full-time. Invasives are invasives, they're here to stay. I'm not really sure what you think we're not doing now that this change will help.
I think my understanding is that Veronique is doing work beyond the expectation, no, not the expectation. She's trying to meet those expectations with the time that's there and is using her own time to accomplish these tasks rather than being compensated by the town appropriately for the work that she's doing.
Okay, there's a couple points I would make to that. One, in the past, when someone worked more hours, they came back to us and said, hey, I want to do this. Can I have more hours? And we looked at it, we said, yes, we'd like you to do that, and we gave them more hours. If you're working more hours and you're paid part-time, to some extent, that's volunteer work that you're doing because you're not paid for it, and Veronique has not come back to the town and asked for more hours. So in my proposal, we're giving more hours so that she can do more, but I would urge her that if we're not compensating her, don't do the work. That's what the last two people did. They were compensated for a certain amount of hours, and when they got to the end of that, they asked for more hours or they stopped working. Now, I think everyone in their position, I think, as far as my experience, works more hours than they're paid for. Particularly if you're a salaried person, you know, you're working quite a bit of time. So I don't find that argument to be very persuasive. And remember, this is a good idea, but not in this year. You're going to go out and ask your neighbors, what do you think of a 40% tax increase, and see what they say. And oh, by the way, we're making someone who is part-time, who for all intents and purposes, I think the town land looks pretty good. When I've been on all these trails, they're pretty good. There's new bridges that have been made in different places. We've acquired new land. It gets utilized. You know, the Oyster River Forest is tremendously utilized. We've done that with part-time people working on that. And also, we have a host of volunteers in town, and lots of times when you get a full-time person, they do work that volunteers used to do.
Call a question.
And they coordinate that volunteer work.
Yes, and that's why they're
Hence the name.
part-time. They coordinate the volunteer work.
This is a point.
Anyway, it's just my personal opinion.
Do you want to make a motion on it? Have you made a motion?
I have not,
Would you like to make a
but
motion?
Was it to reduce the land stewardship coordinator position from the proposed full-time 34 hours a week to 30 hours a week?
35 hours.
35 hours a week to 30 hours a week?
my proposal is to maintain the land stewardship coordinator as a part-time position for a budget of $47,000.
That's your motion?
That's my motion.
Is there a second? I'll second that motion. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Grant?
Heather Grant, nay.
Robin vote nay.
Joe Friedman, aye.
Sonia Dell, nay.
Wayne Burton, nay.
Darrell Ford, nay.
Cardin Welsh, aye.
Councilor Friedrichs?
Friedrichs, nay.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 no and 2 yes. So it fails.
Would you like to continue, Councilor Welsh?
Yes, the police education and training is $45,000. I'd like to add an additional savings of $4,000. It'll still be the highest amount we've ever spent on police education and training. The run rate this year is $24,000. And The chief has a large budget to draw from, so it's likely that if there's very important training to be done, he can find that extra $4,000.
But I would just say, I think if in fact the council was comfortable with this reduction, one of the things we had budgeted was, I think Rainey's online, around $3,600 plus or minus to replace some uniforms for the honor guard. We would probably shift the money from there over to offset this reduction. That's probably what would happen.
Would you like to make that in a motion?
Yes. I would move that we reduce police education and training to $40,000.
Second that.
Is there a second? Is there any further discussion? Counselor Grant?
Heather Grant, aye.
Robin Vote, aye.
Joe Friedman, aye.
Cy Nadell, aye.
Wayne Burton, aye.
Carol Ford, aye.
Cardin Welsh, aye.
M. Friedrichs, aye.
Okay, next I would like to remove the dog.
Oh, that was brutal.
I love dogs.
Yeah, sure.
But it just seems like a little bit of a slap in the face to the town citizens that we're going to put $5,000 into the budget for the dog when taxes are up 40% over 3 years. I know the police department is passionate about this, and I feel quite certain that if they want to, they can find the money in their budget. But I wouldn't leave it as a budget item.
Would you like to make that as a motion?
Unless there's discussion.
Or we can do that after, either way, right?
Yes, I would like to move that we do not directly fund the police department dog for savings of $5,000.
Your second?
I'll second that.
Okay.
I'm wondering whether there's a compromise in there rather than removing all the funding, or is there an opportunity for people in town to choose to donate money to the care of this dog?
Residents could certainly make a donation toward the dog. This is a case, I think, I'm going to look to the chief, where we had, staff come up with ideas for improvement at the police department all the time. And some of those we think make sense, and some of them we think don't. There have been suggestions in the past to bring on a motorcycle and other kinds of specialized equipment, and et cetera, et cetera. And very frequently, our response is no. Because we either don't see the value for the cost, or it's outside of the scope of what we're trying to achieve. In this case, we thought it made sense. It was a creative innovation. The officer was willing to absorb the lion's share of the upfront costs of bringing on this animal, and we thought it would generate a lot of goodwill at a difficult time in our country's history, in terms history. So I think it sends a negative message to the officer who has really invested a lot to make this happen. And there's no guarantee that residents will come forward to make these contributions. Maybe they will, but I don't know. I think, I don't hear this motion as saying the council is prohibiting having the dog, but rather the $5,000 that was planned to be used for the dog would be eliminated, and then we'd have to evaluate how we deal with it. But I'd look to the chief to see if he has any other feedback.
Yeah, Todd, you're absolutely right. The officer, C.J. Young, came to me, 8 or 9 months ago for the second time and made a proposal that we get a comfort dog. And he, for the first year, or the last 6 months or 7 months, however long it's been, 100% he's taken care of the food, the vet, the training. And at the end of the day, it's not going to break our budget, but the community members that, if you had been down at the Hannaford's, when they were doing the food baskets, everybody that came up to that area in front of the Hannaford's immediately went to that dog. So it is a goodwill project, but if you're telling me that you don't see the value of the $5,000 with the dog, then we'll try to find it monies elsewhere.
Go ahead.
Chief, can you tell me how the amount $5,000 came about? You know, would a lesser amount maybe be adequate? And you know, so we still support the dog and the officer, and but
Because I was going
maybe
to
for
say,
less.
as you start to try and calculate, you know, how much does your dog food cost you every year?
I have no
We know the
idea.
vet
That's my
bills are,
wife.
huh? About
I said I have no idea.
probably like 1,200
It's a lot.
just for the food. Vet bills on top of that are probably somewhere, you know, around the 600 range. You could probably get by with 2,500 ish. Like I said, I don't. It's nice if some of these costs did have some of the line items on them, because I mean, that's just off the top of my head for my Henry dog, Jasper dog.
Rini, do we have a breakdown of the cost? I think CJ provided that at some point.
He did, and it came in less than what the $5,000 that we recommended. I mean, vet bills, training, food, that kind of stuff. That's the number he came up with. It looked like it was reasonable to me, so that's why we went with it.
The vaccinations alone are probably $700. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Well, that's with the vet, though. That's the whole vet bill.
And I think the employee is absorbing some of the cost as well, because ultimately it's the employee's dog, right?
Could I, Chief, okay. We had a series on PTSD for police officers this year. I went to a couple of them. I think Lauren Selig was behind this. And I think that the stress these folks are under is different than any other area. At least that's the impression I got. And when you say a comfort dog, I think that's part of it, isn't it?
It is. Anytime we have a really bad incident in town that could affect the officer, we pull together a stress debrief where we bring in professionals that are trained to deal with these types of situations, and they all have comfort animals. And I will tell you, we had a really bad suicide a while ago, and we brought the team in, and he had a black lab dog, and that dog went to just about everybody in the room, and was just kind of like laid his head on the lap, and he said somehow that this person, the officer, was having a hard time with it. And the key on that, and this training that we still need to send CJ and the dog to, so they'll be able to conduct their own critical incident debriefs and bring our dog Jet to these types of things. So I got to tell you, I mean, I'm old school, and Todd and I had a very in-depth conversation about this. And at the end of the day, we saw it as a positive to the community. The officer that's handling him is a seasoned officer who's been here for a number of years. He's has always wanted to be a canine handler. There's no way we're ever going to get a regular patrol dog, a bite dog, or a drug dog, but this dog certainly is paying dividends, I think. So we'll go out with a campaign, we'll put it on our Facebook, and see if that helps generate some funds. And if not, then we'll find someplace else in the budget.
We haven't voted yet, Chief. Don't
Don't give up yet. Don't give up yet.
I see where this is going now, so.
I would say maybe put it to 2,500 and I know you have a philosophy on this, but I think it does add value. Although if I had done this last year, it
I have to say I'm disappointed in my fellow counselors who, some of whom said a few weeks ago that we should have only the need to have, not a want to have, but now votes for the want to haves. You know, we don't need a dog. The dog is potentially a very good idea, just like potentially a full-time land stewardship person, but we don't have the money for it. I mean, you all have presumably personal budgets, and there's stuff that you want, that you think is a good idea, you think it's great, maybe you want to make a contribution to something, but it doesn't fit in your budget, so you don't do it. But you act like we have kind of this unlimited budget that we can have a 17% cost increase, and you want to throw in a new full-time employee, and you want to throw in a dog, and you want to throw in this, and yeah, that's okay. But it's not, because we don't have the valuation to support it. And we already have a town infrastructure that's pretty big for a town our size, and you know with the revaluation that the student housing is going to carry a lesser proportion than it used to. So people are going to be hit pretty badly, and we're sitting here for 10 minutes, 15 minutes talking about a dog that costs $5,000 that Chief has indicated that he can support without our putting money in, and we're trying to figure out ways to put this in the budget. This isn't a serious conversation, to my point of view.
Point of order. You don't insult us, okay? I think it's important, and don't keep saying that. We're serious-minded too, and there are some things that we think should go in, some things we don't. So
I regret the fact that I've offended anyone. I hope I haven't. To me, though, if we're talking about a 17 or 18% increase in budget, spending so much time on a $5,000 item, seems like we could be spending the time more efficiently
we're only
somewhere else.
spending time on it because you're speaking.
I disagree with that, Wayne, and I would say that you're doing the same thing that you accused me
Point
of
of order,
doing.
Mr. Chair, I think it's time we move on to a vote.
I agree with Robin, Councilor Voigt.
We'll have one more comment from the
Absolutely.
administrator.
I was just going to say, as Rainey indicated, this proposal came up a couple of years ago. We looked at it and said no, and then it came up again, and given the circumstances and the issues the department was dealing with, and the tremendous initiative from the employee who was involved, and the support from the other staff, Rainey was supportive, and I said yes. So I take responsibility for this, okay? And based on my saying yes, the employee went out and invested money and time on this whole initiative. And I think it would be very poor for the town to back out of it at this point. I would support reducing it to the $2,500 that Councilor Grant noted. And I think, and the department will work to either find the money elsewhere or raise the money privately. We can put something out in the Friday updates. But I think it's important to demonstrate to the department that we're supporting this. I think not doing so would have a negative morale impact, which is completely unnecessary. And I'll just note that, like, everyone's working hard here to be a team player, and, you know, I'll just point to the many reductions that staff have found and additional revenue staff have found in this as part of this effort. So I just don't believe this is the item to cut. It's going to have more harm than good, I believe. So that's my suggestion.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize, Cardin. I, as someone with a 60% PTSD rating from the Veterans Administration, I know how important my dog is to me. And so I'm feeling some of that too when I hear the stories from it. And I'm sorry, Cardin, I shouldn't have said that.
I apologize to Wayne with no PTSD. Myself, I really love my dog, so.
I don't doubt that.
There is a amendment on the table to cut the $5,000 budgeted item for the dog, and we'll have a vote now. Councilor Grant?
So what are we voting
We're
on?
voting
On the
right down on the,
2,500?
No, it wasn't seconded,
No.
though.
Hasn't been seconded.
There wasn't even a formal motion.
Councilor Friedrichs
It was
did
a-
second it.
Oh, she did?
Yes.
Oh, they did?
Yes.
Yes.
I second
Counselor
it.
Welsh made
You
the
go, go
amendment, Counselor Friedrich seconded
Very
it.
good.
Of the 2,500?
No,
No,
5,000.
5,000.
Oh, the
5,000,
5,000.
yeah.
Yep.
Heather Grant, nay.
Robin, vote nay.
Joe Friedman, aye.
Okay, I just want to make sure we know what we're voting for. So
$5,000
nay
cost.
says that we do not want to spend $5,000 on the dog.
No.
No.
Nay says you're not going to cut $5,000.
Nay says I'm not going to reduce. Nay, Sally Nadell.
Nay. Wayne Burton.
Darrell Ford, nay.
Cardin Welsh, aye.
Okay.
Then there's M.
M. Friedrichs, aye.
So that's
Okay,
1, 2,
so
3,
I
4.
move that we
5
cut
to
the
3.
budget for the dog from 5,000 to 2,500.
Is there
I'll
a
second
second
that.
there? Do we need any more further discussion? Go ahead and vote. Counselor Welsh?
Cardin Welsh, aye.
Darrell Ford, aye.
Wayne Burton, nay. Nay.
Sally Nadell, nay.
Joe Friedman, aye.
Robin, vote nay.
Heather Grant, aye.
M. Friedrichs, aye.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor, 3 opposed.
Carries.
Counselor Welsh, do you have any further?
Yes, I move that we remove $2,000 from the moderator to be allocated as desired. The remaining $16,000 budget will be the highest ever. Now we've got 3 elections next year, and so this budget's the highest it's ever been. For those of you who've voted in Durham, which I assume all of you have, to me, the voting booths are fine. You walk into them, you shut the curtain, and you vote. I don't really know why we need to buy new ones. That's one point. Second point, there's $3,000 allocated for food for the people who are volunteering. I have volunteered for most of the elections since I've been here. I've seen a lot of food wasted because it got cold at the end, and I see the volunteers making food and selling it. So I'm not really sure why we need the $3,000 for food. Maybe, the argument is that I think Todd made or someone else that we don't pay the volunteers. So in a way, giving them food is giving them something. But most of the volunteers work like 3 or 4 hour shifts. They don't necessarily need food. There's food there they can buy. So I just point those out as things that I think in a really tight budget year, we should be thinking about places we can save money. And so that's why I suggest we remove $2,000.
Would you like to make a motion on that?
Yes, I move that we remove $2,000 from the moderator's budget.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I have a question.
Counselor Foat, and then you, Counselor Friedrichs?
It's just a quick question around the updates to the voting booths specifically. Is this increasing accessibility for folks that traditionally may not have had accessibility to the voting booths? Or what is involved in this?
No, well,
Some of them are included.
some of them are universal access booths, but we have old booths that we've used that are heavy to transport, are not in the best shape, are often being repaired on site because they have issues. So we've been embarking on an effort over the last 4 or 5 years to slowly replace, I think, 5 booths a year. And we were not able to do that last year. Instead, we invested in the voting machine, to have a second machine. And the proposal was to resume that this year. So if we don't, it just delays the replacement. We'll survive. In terms of food, I strongly recommend we provide food. We have volunteers who are devoting time and effort over a really long, tedious day, and we should feed them, in my opinion. The food that's sold is it's treats from the booster clubs and things. And people buy those too, but our volunteers should be fed, particularly, I think it's just the right thing to do.
But
They work hard for
in the
us.
cut, we're not saying you can't cut food. You can cut wherever you want.
No, if they don't add new voting booths, they
And they
don't have to
can
cut the food.
pay for food.
Yeah, so the voting booths would go first.
Counselor
Yeah.
Friedrichs?
I was just going to ask for clarification of whether that included the voting booths, because I had a suggested reduction of 5,000 from the moderator's budget for no new voting booths.
Yeah, so I would apply that to the voting booths first.
So the motion on the table, though, is to remove $2,000 from the town moderator's budget. Is that correct?
Yes, I will defer to Councillor Friedrichs for the 5,000.
I'd like to make a motion to amend that motion then and say that it's a $5,000 reduction.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second that, and I'd like to speak in favor of the motion. The voting booths are fine. You walk in there for a couple of minutes, you make your vote, you pull the curtain, you make your vote, you leave. They're a little bit rickety, but, you know, this is New Hampshire, so.
I'm just looking at, Gail, is the 5,000 the amount for the booths? I just don't remember.
6,000 in the budget.
Okay, so we will make it work.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? The motion is to remove $5,000 from the town moderator's budget. Is that correct? Is that the motion? Okay. To be, that they can specify where, but it's most likely in those booths. Any further discussion? Councilor Grant?
Heather Grant, aye.
Robin vote nay.
Joe Friedman, aye.
Sunny Dale, nay.
Wayne Burton, aye.
Darrell Ford, aye.
Cardin Welsh, aye.
M. Friedrichs, aye.
That's 6 yes, 2 no.
Cookies for you.
Councilor Welsh?
Todd, you said you'd already removed $1,000 from the planning department, travel, cell phone,
Yes.
professional development.
Yes.
How about from rec, $1,000 from the staff development line? Okay. I propose that we remove $1,000 from the rec professional staff development line. In difficult budget years, staff development expenses should be minimized.
Is that a motion?
That's my motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
Do we know that that's where that staff development funds are used? Are they used for Rachel and Kelly, or are they used for summer camp counselors? Or that programming?
I believe this is Rachel and Kelly to go to the statewide Parks and Rec conference, which is usually held somewhere in the state. It moves around, I think. So sometimes it's at Gunstock, sometimes it's in North Conway. It
So they can
varies.
talk to other Parks and Rec.
Right. Right. I think they have separate monies where they do some training for the.
It's,
Yeah.
no, it's all
Yeah.
included in that 2650.
It's all in there. Okay.
So you're not eliminating the budget,
No,
you're
no,
reducing
it's
it by
going from
1,000 to...
2650 to 1650.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
I would just to Councillor Welsh's point, I think that, you know, addressing line items is helpful to departments to get a sense of where the council is headed and what we're feeling and observing. But departments are able to move around funds a little bit. And so if they need 1,000, you know, they need 1,700 to attend the statewide conference, I do not doubt they will find that difference somewhere to actually meet the concrete needs.
I just want to provide an editorial note that we are not adding surplus in these budgets. So it's not as though, oh, we'll just move the money and there's no impact. There's going to be some impact. I can't tell you right now what it is, but we've tried to carefully provide what we think are a reasonable budget. But I hear what you're saying, but I just wanted to offer that.
Yeah, I would say also from my experience in private industry, things like staff development are one of the first things to be cut in a difficult year.
Yeah.
Because you develop your staff over a long period of time. There's some years when they can have a lot of development, some years not so much. It's an easy thing to go. It's easier than firing people or whatever, so.
Councilor Burton?
Well, I was just going to say that staff development can lead to more efficient leadership of the organization, too. And you make money by having someone who's getting new ideas and how they do things, and that's why I always supported it in my organizations. Just a point. I don't want to argue with you.
All right, we'll have a vote. Counselor Grant?
Heather Grant, aye.
Robin vote nay.
Joe Friedman, aye.
Sonia Dell, nay.
Wayne Burton, nay.
Gerald Ford, aye.
Cardin Welsh, aye.
And Friedrichs, aye.
So it's 5 yes, 3 no. Passes.
That's it.
That's it. Counselor Grant?
All right, I was looking at the capital, again, this is for the fire department, for the remodeling. I think I mentioned this during discussions before. I am saying that we reduce it from 500 to 400, and that's just based on not really having any details on, what the cost breakdown is for the half, so I'm just saying to reduce it by 100,000 on the fire department building improvement.
Dave Emmanuel, do you want to comment on that?
How much was the reduction, excuse me?
$100,000.
100,000.
And that's in the capital?
Yes.
Thank you for the question. I reach out to UNH project managers every week to see if we have revised project estimate numbers, and I don't have it right now. That was the range that they had recommended that we asked for, and that is based on doing the whole thing at once with all the trades at the fire station as expeditiously as we can for construction in a facility that is fully occupied and 100% critical infrastructure and operational. So I don't know what the full implications of that would be.
If approved, we would have to, and if the amount came in less than, if the amount came in that we needed the 500 and we had 400, we'd have to do some value engineering to make some reductions, is what would happen. And UNH is working very hard. They have significant reduction in staffing, and things are moving very slowly. So this is not the chief's fault. He's been really trying to move this along. We're waiting for the figures, and we just don't have them. So I'm not trying to avoid your question. All we have is a very general estimate, and we can't get more right now. So that's just how it would play out, is value engineering.
Did you want to make a motion?
Could I ask, is the estimate like 300 to 500? Or is the estimate like 495 to 505?
So I'm gonna.
No, it was 5 and up. But
Oh, 5 was the minimum?
That was what they originally said, and we have several different components they're already funded, whether it's HVAC or other station improvements they're already included. So we're trying to get the best value that we can to accommodate a positive working environment for our people.
Councilor Grant, did you want to make a motion?
I move that we reduce the capital budget from 500,000 to 400,000 for the fire department remodeling.
For a second?
I'll second it.
Is there any further discussion? Councilor Welsh?
Could I ask Chief a question? Chief, if we reduce it to 400,000 and it comes in at 500,000, can you stretch it over the following year?
I'll do everything I can to make things work, and
Well, if the project doesn't get, it depends on, it's moving so slowly. So if, let's say we finally get it designed and we award it in June, let's say, and they have to schedule the contractors, maybe it's not going to be done until December of 27.
And then if you need additional money? you
Yes,
can
we could
ask
come
for it.
back if we
Okay.
needed to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Councilor Welsh, on a vote?
Councilor Welsh, aye.
Gerald Ford, aye.
Wayne Burton, no.
Sonia Dell, nay.
Joe Friedman, aye.
Robin vote nay.
Heather Grant, aye.
And Friedrichs, aye.
So it's 5 yes and 3 no, it passes.
Next thing I have is in the Historic Commission, we have supplies for 4K. I'd like to reduce that to 2K, so I'd like to make a motion to remove 2,000 from the Historic Commission budget.
Is there a second?
What's that for, Heather?
What would be, we're going to second?
I'll second it.
All right, there's a
Just for
second.
discussion.
Thank you.
It's just supplies.
I'll second it.
It's
It's already been
Done.
seconded.
There's been a
Thank
second
you.
on the floor.
Todd, do you have an idea?
Contracted services.
Yeah, is this the sign program that they have? Yeah, they've been wanting to install historic signs within the historic district, and it's been a slow rollout, so it would just slow down the process, but
I think this is
Yeah.
the line item for contracted services, retaining professional and expert assistance for reviewing certain applications and assisting with grant applications and providing specific expertise.
so it,
And I haven't seen a demonstrated amount of that makes it.
yeah, so then that would be as needed, they'd call in those services, so. Yeah, and my thinking is I try to support the different boards and commissions with reasonable requests, whether they use it or not, it depends on their initiatives. So, this is a reasonable reduction, it's not going to be a major problem, I don't think.
Go ahead and vote. Counselor Welsh?
Cardin Welsh, aye.
Darrell Ford, aye.
As a member of the Historic Commission, no.
Sunny Dell, aye.
Joe Friedman, aye.
Robin vote aye.
Heather Grant, aye.
M. Friedrichs, aye.
So it's 7 yes, 1 no.
So I also would like to move to cut 200,000 from the DPW budget for the road resurfacing program, and for them to choose where else they would want to apply that, that's fine, but that's my request.
Sorry, can you, where was that?
200,000 out of the DPW.
From the road program.
Is that total 500,000? Is that what it currently is?
I think it is,
Yeah,
I think it is.
$533,500, so this would reduce it to 333,500. The,
Todd, as I recall, we do this every year
we
at
do,
this relatively the same amount.
we do, and if we reduce it now, then in next year, we're going to be behind the 8 ball to try to increase it, and the roads just fall behind. So I would not recommend it. We've tried to be very disciplined about spending this amount in cash each year.
Do we have a second for the motion?
Oh, sorry.
I haven't heard one.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. Counselor Ford?
I'm opposed to this motion for the reason that Todd just gave. I know Rich is very good about doing the CPI and keeping up with the roads. And once you start to fall behind, now the roads deteriorate more, they cost more to fix. It's much cheaper to keep up with it as you go along. Keep the good roads good rather than trying to rebuild bad roads.
So I would also follow on with Councilor Ford's comment. You can defer expenses like this if you see something happening like valuation jumping up next year. So you could say, okay, we'll reduce it to 300 this year. Next year we'll have more valuation and we can increase it to 700,000 and get back to, but we don't see that. So we're suffering this year from the fact that we used reserves to make the budget last year. And now that's made this year just so much harder because we used reserves last year. And this is the same sort of thing. If we drop to 300 this year, then next year we'll have to go to 700,000, or the year after that to 900,000. And we already know those years are bad. And we're hopeful for Riverwoods or some other things to occur, but hope isn't a strategy. Nothing's on paper yet.
Right.
So I would reluctantly agree with Councilor Ford that we shouldn't do this.
Any other comments? Counselor Welsh, we'll take a vote. Start with you.
Councilor Welsh, nay.
Darrell Ford, nay.
Wayne Burton, nay.
Sunny Dell, nay.
Joe Friedman, nay.
Robin vote nay.
Heather Grant, nay. And then oh,
Go ahead. Okay, thank you.
and just to confirm, we did already remove the 2 new firefighters from positions for 2026?
Yes, those were requested by the department, but I did not recommend them.
Okay. And then I just, I think I had this more as a question. So we have, and whether it's a good dialogue for now, just tell me if it isn't. We have the contingencies and the wage increases, and just an understanding of the contingency values that we've used for that. You know, is it thinking the worst, that we would, you know, that the agreements would come in to every demand, or is it moderated to think where we can go? I'm just wondering if what's going to happen, we have the contingency in the budget and then it ends up being lower. What do we, you know, we keep talking about when we don't spend the money, it goes into the general fund, when it really could be coming back to the taxpayers, similar to what we were trying to do last year.
Yeah, so Gail and I have discussed the amounts, and we feel it's what represents a reasonable solution to our various contracts. If we're able to bring in a contract for less, then we will. And if we're not able to bring in a contract under that amount, either we won't arrive at tentative agreement, or we need to come to the council, and the council would need to agree to amend the budget to bring more money to bear. But Gail and I believe this is what a reasonable compromise would look like. This is candidly one of those challenges with transparency, is we're saying to the unions, hey, here's the pot of money we've allocated, but we, again, have been fairly unclear about how much we've allocated for each unit, and we have some flexibility there to move things around. So it's a pool, and we're faced with this for each union contract, unless we're able to finalize the contracts prior to now, which
we're not going to do.
It's not happening this time, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah, I was just trying to gauge like that.
So if you cut those, if the council was to reduce those amounts further, it will make it that much harder to reach an agreement with our different units. And for the public's benefit, we're currently in collective bargaining with the firefighters union, the AFSCME representing Durham Public Works, the middle managers unit. So those 3 unions.
I just think that if we're lucky and we come in at below, that money should, when it goes into the fund, I think next year it should be coming back to offset problems that we're having with revenues, in the next year, if that's what we're expecting anyway, or it should be putting towards something that helps us in the following year.
Councilor Grant, do you have any other?
No, that's all I have.
Councilor Vogt?
I have no additions or subtractions this evening.
Okay. I do not have any either. Councilor Nadell?
I do not either.
Councilor Burton? Councilor Friedrichs?
Yes, I have some. So the most
What's that?
challenging,
Councilor Nadell wanted to point out that we have 9 minutes left at the meeting, so please do go ahead.
okay. The first one, so the federal COLA, cost of living adjustment for this past year is 2.5%. And our budget is accommodating a 3.3% cost of living increase adjustment. And I think if we adjust that to a 2.5% across the board, that would save us about $130,000 in full-time salaries and $13,000 in part-time salaries. I was estimating based on last year's part-time salary amount, because I know there's some adjustments of additional part-time folks. So that's a total of about $140,000 in savings. So I move that we use the federal standard for the cost of living adjustment of 2.5%.
I believe the federal standard is 2.8% this coming year, isn't it?
Well, we've allocated, we've looked to the CPIU, Boston, Cambridge, Newton, Massachusetts, New Hampshire scale, and as of the end of August, when I prepared the budget, it was, for 25, was at 3.2%. So I've not gone back to look at what it is since then.
I believe Social Security is 2.8%, which is a pretty broad
Which is different, though.
indicator.
Yeah.
That's different.
That's
Yeah.
different.
I just looked it up and it's 2.5.
Okay, all right. Is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Well,
Yes.
I'll just note that one of the practical challenges that we're facing with our collective bargaining, particularly with the firefighters union, is that we've been under long-term agreements. The firefighters union has been under a 5-year agreement. And so during the period of time following the pandemic, when the rate of inflation was 8-9%, and other communities were providing very significant increases, we were not, and that has caused our employees to fall behind relative to the market. So that's one of the challenges we have with collective bargaining at the present time, is our staff are saying, look at the sizable increases communities around us have awarded over the last several years. We want those too for parity. And what the town is arguing is, well, times have changed, and we don't believe we can any longer provide that type of an increase. But again, the increases are wages and benefits as well. And I would not recommend that you make this proposed change.
What is this?
Yeah.
The 3.3 is up for whom?
At this point, the 3% is only budgeted for the non-union. It doesn't include any of the union.
It's
So it would not be-
3.0%.
Yeah, so it would not be any savings. The savings would not be as great as Em has
Yeah,
said. They
so-
would not be 100,000.
So basically, we're talking about the town staff.
We're talking about 15, 16 people, yeah.
Okay, and it's 3.0%,
That's what has been budgeted.
and the Social Security is 2.8%. So,
And this,
so it's very close.
Yeah, but we don't,
yeah. And the CPIU here, as of July, was 3.2%.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
So
We're going to have to move on this, so Counselor Welsh.
Nay.
Darrell Ford, nay.
Wayne Burton, nay.
Sonia Del, nay.
Joe Friedman, nay.
Robin vote nay.
Heather Grant, nay.
M. Friedrichs, nay.
Okay, do you have more, Counselor Friedrichs?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to extend the meeting until 11 o'clock PM.
I'll second.
Okay, we'll have a vote. Counselor Grant?
Heather Grant, aye.
Robin vote aye.
Joe Friedman, aye.
Sonia Del, aye.
Wayne Burton, aye.
Darrell Ford, nay.
Cardin Welsh, aye.
M. Friedrichs, aye.
Okay. Would you like to continue, Counselor Friedrichs?
Yes, so I would also suggest that we begin by cutting the part-time role, $6,100 in the planning department, and we keep our current staff, which is Tracy and Michael. The town is not growing in its projects. We're down to part-time code enforcement. We're not increasing assessing. I don't see the need to be adding staff hours there. And I think that, I understand the reasons that were put forth for that, but I think, sometimes we have multiple staff attending committee meetings, and there are ways to use staff's time in a way that's a little bit better, whether that's, reducing the number of hours to the public or what it may be, but I don't think adding hours is the right thing to be doing in this budget. So I make a motion to cut that line item,
Can you say the amount again, please?
$6,100.
Just to be noted that that is a position that was within 3 departments, so the total budgeted was 18,300.
Right.
Thank you. 18,300 then. That's great.
I'll second that.
Okay, is there further discussion?
I'd like some discussion.
Yes.
Yeah, so the challenge there is that the planning and zoning office is still a very busy office, and the full-time administrative assistant is unable to keep up with the workload. And so the solution we arrived at this year to help to address that was to take a part-time temporary intern from UNH and have that person help out when she had time to do so. So that would mean that she could cover the front desk and deal with the public to allow the administrative assistant to take on other projects. It also enabled that administrative assistant, the intern, to help individual department heads with certain projects. Now, there's an extenuating circumstance, which is in the assessing office. So what I'm going to say, the state works very slowly. So as part of our 2023 revaluation 2 years ago, the state had to do an audit of that evaluation. And the revaluation was fine, but as part of the audit, they looked at the ways in which the different files have been kept in the assessing office and how frequently they're updated for new information. So these are things like the veterans exemptions, the elderly exemptions, the current use paperwork, to make sure it's all up to date and handled a certain way. And we have not historically been managing those according to the newest standards. So one of the things that the assessing office needs to do in this coming year is revisit all of those files. And one of the tasks that we're planning to have this intern assist with, in addition to helping cover the desk and take on some projects off of the plate of the administrative assistant, is to help the assessor with some of these big projects. So this I viewed as a very cost-effective way to provide temporary part-time services that we can easily scale up or down as needed to address this year. And my hope is that perhaps in another 6 months or 9 months or a year, we won't need the position. But right now, the position's underwater. And so we're trying to provide a cost-effective way to deal with it at $20 an hour, I believe is the rate. So, but it's a bad budget year, but the position's underwater. So it's a busy office still.
But Todd, 3 years ago, we didn't have this, right?
Well, we had a different staff person in the role who'd been in that role for many years, who is incredibly efficient and invented many of the protocols in the office. And we've had some staffing changes, which, our administrative assistant is doing a very good job. It's simply that I think our assessment collectively is there's more work in there for that position than just one person right now. So we're trying to figure out how to address it more efficiently. So,
Any other comments?
I mean, I want to return to the suggestion. I think the town clerk's office has been very creative in how to distribute their workload when it's been too much, and whether that looks like a reduction in hours available to the public at certain points or whatever that may look like. I think, staff departments are very good at, if there are really not enough hours in the day, they will find a way to prioritize different demands.
So I don't want to belabor this. We've provided a lot of back and forth by email on it. I guess the other way to approach it would be to allocate additional hours and overtime so that the administrative assistant could stay later every day to deal with the work. But the reality is the impact might be the same, and it's more wear and tear on that particular employee. So.
All right, we'll call for a vote. Councilor Nadell?
Nay.
Wayne Burton, nay.
Darrell Ford, nay.
Cardin Welsh, aye.
Heather Grant, nay.
Robin vote nay.
Joe Friedman, nay. Councilor Friedrichs?
M. Friedrichs, aye.
So it's 6 no, 2 yes, so it fails.
How about this? How about, M, if you propose that we cut the hours in half?
Sure, I love that. So that would be, I make a motion that we cut the part-time hours from a total of, I don't know how many hours, but the budget item would be 18,300 to a total of $9,150 to be distributed between the 3 departments.
I'll second that.
Seconded, yes. Any further discussion on that?
Just a quick note. We have a town manager. We set policy. We're really getting down into micromanaging the town. And I don't see nickel and diming, which makes Todd came in with his best estimate. That's my feeling at this one. We're getting, wait a minute. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? All right, we'll vote on this. Counselor Grant?
Heather Grant, aye.
Robin, vote nay.
Joe Friedman, nay.
Sonia Dell, nay.
Wayne Burton, nay.
Gerald Ford, aye.
Cardin Welsh, aye.
And Friedrichs, aye.
So it's 4-4, so it fails.
Yes.
I would also like to suggest that the 4 budgets, the 4 budget additions, which are plus for negotiated, the overlays, the plus overlay, particularly for Eversource, the plus overlay, particularly for student housing, as well as the plus exemptions, that those 4 budgets be reduced by 20%, which would be a total of a savings of $360,000.
Which is this in?
So these are the funds that we recommend including to overlay to cover abatements, potential abatements. They're charged directly to undesignated fund balance. So that reduction simply makes it potentially harder to either come to agreement, or we likely won't have enough monies to deal with those abatements, and it has no impact on the tax rate for next year. So the council could do that. We don't know what the amounts will be at this point in time, but that's our best guess based upon the numbers. So, and if we don't use those, if we don't settle, if the cases don't go to court, we don't spend those monies.
But it's a responsible reserve.
It's a reserve, yeah. That's all it is.
A risk reserve is kind of important,
Yeah.
I would think.
So it does or does not impact the budget?
It impacts the budget, but not the tax rate, because the offsetting revenue comes from undesignated fund
Okay.
balance.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, if you ended up settling for an amount different than that, the steps would be to come to the council for an approval for a different amount, correct?
Yes, but if in some the total exceeds what the council allocates, then we'd have to come back to the council, and the council would have to do a budget adjustment, which requires a public hearing and going through that process. And I would just say, to what end? The town's staff is just going to work just as hard to represent the town's position as not. It's simply a reserve allocation. That's all.
This doesn't seem to,
It's not like we would somehow be able to get out of doing it.
no.
Right,
So,
It doesn't seem to have any point to me.
no.
right. So like the amount for Eversource, the 360,000, is that right? I think so. Approximately, that's a number we've carried for 2 years now, and we've not expended because it hasn't gotten to court. So it's been to court, it's had its hearings, and we're waiting for a decision. We don't know what the result will be. It could be less, it could be more. We don't know. We think the 360 was a reasonable number, though.
So we'll vote. Counselor Welsh?
Nay.
Gerald Ford, nay.
Wayne Burton, nay.
Sonia Dell, nay.
Joe Friedman, nay.
Robin, vote nay.
Heather Grant, nay.
Just a point of order, I don't know that that was ever seconded.
Yeah, I don't think it was.
So it's fine, I
I don't think it was seconded
I
either.
thought you seconded.
I thought I seconded.
Counselor Grant
Okay, I might have.
Seconded.
Yeah, she did too.
Yep.
So
way-
hearing it out of my left
So
ear.
what did you vote, Counselor Friedrichs? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I have 7 no's right now.
I can vote nay then,
No, okay.
if it was seconded.
Okay. Counselor Friedrichs, you have more?
Yeah, I'd like to bring up removing the Kalea assistant from this year's budget to be revisited for next year. So that would be a savings of about $22,000.
We've already delayed it slightly. So, yeah.
I'm sorry, discussion point. Todd, I thought that having that person was going to help us with the parking, which generates 72,000 in revenue.
Yes. The police department is feeling underwater as well in terms of managing the parking permit program that we have. And it's the same people who do that as who do the Kalea. And so this would give them some bandwidth to deal with it. And the Kalea regulations are stringent, and the department is very busy. So I felt this was justified. I think Kalea is a very important initiative that the town entertains, and this was a reasonable request. In terms of benchmarking, most of the other communities that have Kalea now have a designated Kalea accreditation person, either full-time or part-time. And my understanding is there's someone from UNH who is retiring, who does this at UNH, who might have an interest in taking on part-time for us. So the timing would work out well as well.
I understand the value of the Kalea program, and I understand the intent. I would rather see the parking program up and running and actually generating revenue. And then once we see that working, to then be adding the Kalea person for next year's budget. But I am wary because I think sometimes we get promises of adding staff people will actually lead to, you know, cost savings, and those don't always pan out. You know, we may not see the parking revenue that we anticipate, and then we've added another staff person.
Well, I just note we're moving ahead right now in, pardon the frame, but kind of a Donald Trumpish fashion, where I'm kind of moving this forward as a pilot program, damn the ordinances, full speed ahead, to have a new overnight permit program up and running January 1. And so the department has really stepped up to make this happen. And I just thought this was a reasonable and appropriate add-on, but it's a bad budget year.
But we also had postponed it from their original request to next September?
September 1st.
Yeah, so
Yes.
it's 1 quarter's worth.
And they've been asking for several cycles for this now. So, for budget cycles.
Counselor Friedrichs, did you want to make a motion?
So I will make a motion to remove the Kalea part-time assistant from this year's budget with a potential revisiting of that, you know, topic, maybe even later this year if we do see the revenue there to support it.
Is there a second? There being no second, do you want to move on? Do you have other? Okay.
I think that's all I have for this evening. I would point out, I think that to meet our budget goals, we needed to identify an additional $1,530,000 in budget cuts. And that's after the additional round that was suggested by Todd, and I believe that we've successfully reduced it only about another maybe 400,000. So we are still at $1,130,000 about over our own budget goals.
Okay. So there is a motion on the table to approve the budget with the amendments that have been voted on today.
I just have one question, though, in terms of, is there anything else in DPW that we could shave? They're one of the bigger items. It's not something I've thought about until this morning when we were talking about snow. And is there a savings of only doing the sidewalk plowing on sidewalks that are the downtown area and not in neighborhoods where people could be responsible for doing their own snow blowing in front of their homes? Is that viable in any way, and is it something Rich could look at, or is it worth it? I've just lived in snow country where we had to do our own.
And, I mean, observationally, there are a lot of sidewalks that don't get used in winter season that, you know, outside of the downtown area. That's something that I would.
I've never seen that.
Well, we've got school children all over the community who walk on those
Yeah.
sidewalks to school, and so we want to make sure they're safe.
I know in our area, we walk all those, but I mean, we
it
don't
might
have
save in-
sidewalks everywhere either, but.
In gas and some sand and some wear and tear in the vehicle, but it's not going to be a reduction in staffing. And I think it's a huge reduction in service. I wouldn't recommend that.
Councilor Welch?
Yeah, I would like to see what the budget looks like before voting on it. So,
Well, shall we bring it back to you?
yeah,
I think so.
So we have a tentative budget work session scheduled for next Monday, if you feel you need that. Alternatively, we can bring it back to you and you can deal with it as part of usually we would bring it back to you for the last meeting of December with all the whereases locked in with these changes you've made, and you'd approve it all at that time. That's typically what we would do. So I think the question is if you want to keep working at it on next Monday, or if you feel you've made the reductions that you want to make, and we'll make those adjustments, put them into the whereases, and bring you basically a finished product for you to act on December 15th.
Is there a sense from the group?
I mean, I'd like to see what it looks like now in terms of total numbers, all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And maybe you could even send it to us or something, but I guess not. We want to discuss it in public.
Right.
So I hate to add an additional meeting,
Well,
but
the meeting is already tentatively on
it's
the
already
books for
there.
next Monday.
So I'd like to meet on the 8th, and then maybe we can finish up on the 15th.
And maybe we won't need a 3-hour meeting on
Yes.
that Monday
Yeah.
either.
No, I think, you know, when you propose something that gets defeated, you know not to propose it again, so.
And I'm just, would your preference be, Gail, that they work out the details next week? And so we have the finished product, or the agenda's not heavy for the 15th?
15th.
So there would be time in the first part of the meeting to work further on the budget, and then if there are further changes, we could make those, bring them back into the room, and then you can act on them. We might need to take a 15 or 20-minute recess while we
I mean, we
make
can have
any
the
final
resolution
changes.
and everything out to you, you
Yeah,
know, prior to the 15th.
right.
And not meet on the 8th.
Not meet on the 8th.
Right, we could do that.
But we definitely need to vote on the 15th to
Right.
get the budget that we want passed, otherwise the default budget would go into place.
Well, you could meet on the
I'd rather
22nd.
meet the 8th.
I thought
You
there
could
was,
meet on the
I thought there
22nd.
was 14 days required. Is that not right? Between,
Is it within 14 days or after 14
No,
days?
after 14.
After
You have to-
14 days.
The council has to wait 14 days after the public hearing before adopting a budget.
I see.
But we'll be beyond that at
Okay.
that point in
All
time.
right.
So
Why don't we try and meet on the 8th? I would recommend that we meet on the 8th.
Sure.
I would
And-
agree.
And try and finish it
Finalize
on the 8th so that we have good papers on the 15th.
Okay.
I agree.
all right. So we'll put off the vote until next week.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Counselor Welch. Counselor Welch.
Aye.
Counselor Ford?
Counselor Ford?
Aye.
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 Cardin? Joe Friedman, aye.
Robin vote aye.
Heather Grant, aye.
Counselor Friedrichs?
Friedrichs, aye.
We are adjourned. Perhaps we'll do the round table next week as well.
All my meetings are this week, so it's like